Hello, everyone. Welcome to another fine episode of the Game Junk podcast. This is episode number 19 for April 2014, and my name is Sean.
My name is Frank.
My name is Andrew.
And coming up on this particular episode, we're going to be talking about some of the recent releases on both the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. We're going to talk some Titanfall. We're going to talk some infamous Second Son, Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, a bunch of other stuff we played. We got some news, especially the virtual reality revolution, which is happening as we speak. And,
which Sean is obsessed with.
I love it. So we'll get to that shortly. But thanks for tuning in. It's been a while. 3 months, I guess. And I know you've been busy, Huck City.
Oh, I sure have, yep. Kind of had a life change, actually. I've recently left Drinkbox Studios and have decided to become a full-time stay-at-home dad while now working on Citizens of Earth also on the side. So basically I'm working 2 full-time jobs between childcare and trying to work on that game. So it's been a little different change, not as much time to play games, but I've found some time to put some games together and have something to talk about.
So why don't you give us the lowdown on Citizens of Earth, because there was some big news announced in the past week or so.
Sure, yeah. So last week we announced we have a partnership with Atlas. They're a publisher, which is really exciting. We are planning to currently targeting release in September 2014, well, this year. And so far we're targeting PC, which includes Mac, Linux, Windows, 3DS, Wii U, PS4, and Vita. So pretty large cross-section of platforms, so everyone should be able to pick it up that listens to the show, and hopefully it runs perfectly on all of them, because that's what I'm going to be doing. That's basically what I'm trying to get done.
Well, I mean, from what I have seen of indie games, that's a pretty aggressive number of platforms to launch on for such a small team.
It sure is. Right now, we basically have myself and one other guy doing the ports. So it's not really a big team when you're talking about that many ports, although we are getting other people to do the Mac and Linux stuff. But at the same time, we're probably not a typical indie group, indie company, where myself and the other guy doing the ports, we each have, I think 8+ years between the two of us. We each have 8+ years of experience. So we have experience, whereas a lot of other indies are really just, not all of them, but most of the ones that come out are just kind of fumbling around with learning one, trying to make the game. And also, we are dedicated just to porting the game. We're not actually making the game really at all.
Right.
The other guys are doing that, and me and this guy are just bringing it to the platform, so we can focus on that. Whereas most other indies, if they're trying to do ports, they're trying to also make the game at the same time, which is insane to begin with. So we're kind of lucky in that regard.
Right. So where can people find out more info about the game right now if they haven't seen the trailer or any of that stuff?
Yeah, so atlas.com/Citizens of Earth. They have a website made up for us. We also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Citizens of Earth game, I believe. And there's also a teaser trailer currently up actually on Atlas's YouTube channel and also on Nintendo's YouTube channel, actually. So people can check it out there, and it's gone up on a bunch of other websites too. So they could probably find it on most outlets.
Cool. So I guess we should also mention for people who, aren't aware, we had our second live stream event, Game Junk live stream event. When was it? A few weeks ago now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Coming live from Frank's Retro Lounge. And it was definitely a little more, I'd say it was a little more disorganized than the first one. Not that the first one was organized, but it was still a lot of fun. So thanks to the people who...
I blame Dax.
It was definitely Dax's fault. But thanks to all the people who came and joined us and kind of watched us fumble around with the Xbox One.
Watch Dwyer's Titanfall skills.
Yeah.
Even when you guys left, the select few viewers who stayed up with me while I continued to get juiced and play Power Star 12 until 3 in the morning, which was just a blast.
Wow.
Beautiful.
So if you want to find out about future live streams, follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/GameJunk, or follow us on Twitter @GameJunkPodcast, or you can you subscribe to a Twitch channel? I don't know. I'm not that familiar with Twitch, but
I think so, yeah.
Twitch TV/GameJunkPodcast?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. So, yeah. And we're going to be talking about, obviously, some of the games we played there in just a bit. Well, Frank, do you have anything that you want to plug? Anything, in terms of stuff you're working on in the game industry?
As I always do, I'll mention Lost Orbit. It's on Steam Greenlight still, although I think it was successful. Lost Orbit on Facebook, or Pixelnauts on Facebook, if you want to get more info about the game. And it's coming along quite nice, where they took it to GDC and got some good feedback, implemented a bunch of stuff already, and the art boys are just polishing the fuck out of it. It is looking beautiful these days.
Nice. Okay, and I guess we should also mention that you are not here with us. You are at Site B. We are at Site A. So we're doing this via Google Hangouts and just trying it out, seeing how it works. And I don't know. We'll see if it becomes useful in the future. But
it worked before. It can work again.
Yeah. So let's get into some news. Obviously, there's been a lot of stuff happening over the past few months. And you mentioned GDC, Frank. There's a lot of announcements happening there. I guess, we got to start with Sony unveiling Project Morpheus, which is their virtual reality headset. And around the same time, Facebook announcing that they had acquired Oculus. And I think there's been rumors that Microsoft is also developing a VR headset, but I don't think they've announced anything that I'm aware of. Have you guys heard anything?
I don't think so.
So, clearly it seems like something's happening here. Everybody wants to be in on this, whether or not it's going to be a fad or, a huge thing that, becomes something everybody uses in their everyday lives in the future. We don't know yet. But did you guys have a chance to check out any of the videos or just in general details on Project Morpheus or sort of what's going on with Oculus right now?
I didn't see any videos, actually, but I read some stuff about the Facebook acquisition and sort of the specs for Morpheus that they're talking about right now. Sounds like both are pretty similar. It sounds like they both now use a camera to help with the head tracking, whereas I think the original Oculus did not.
Right.
Now I think it does. Same with the Sony one uses the Move camera. And the only difference I can see is that the Morpheus will also have sort of like the Move controller type motion control also embedded in it, where I don't think anything like that's really been announced for Oculus other than just normal controller support.
Well, I think there's a lot of third-party people looking to add on stuff with Oculus, but I think Sony definitely benefits from the fact that they already have the Move.
Yeah, and the DualShock 4.
Yeah.
To me, it's just the main benefit to these VR headsets is camera tracking, essentially replacing the right stick.
Yeah, I've heard some.
I could not really see it being used for much more than that. I did hear some, maybe a separate technology that the Infamous developers showed off, where you could aim with your eyes and stuff like that.
Right.
I did hear a bit about that, yeah.
And it would pick up your specific eye movements and use that to kind of as a controller on top of other things, which sounds intriguing. But I'm excited, and as we talked about on Film Junk, ranting and raving about VR, in video games, it seems like the most sense to me, and I don't know. I'm excited for it. I think it'll be kind of weird to. I haven't tried an Oculus. I don't look at videos of people playing Oculus where their minds are blown. I don't want to know. I just want to experience it.
You don't want to
myself.
see other people enjoying it. You just want to enjoy it yourself.
I don't want anything ruined for my virgin experience with VR.
You want this to be the Ouya of VR.
No, I will never play Ouya, but I will try VR for myself one day.
Well, I think
won't not open a VR headset in terms of being a collectible.
Well, I think it's interesting, like the eye tracking stuff. I mean, that can apparently work even without the VR headset, right? Like I've heard that they have just the Sony camera running and kind of tracking where your eyes are. I don't know if maybe I'm wrong on that, but I've heard some stuff about it, and it sounds crazy. It sounds like it would be incredibly awkward and would not work. But everything I've heard from people who tried it, they say it's like super intuitive. Like it just you're playing it, and all of a sudden, like you're looking around at things in the scene, and the camera's moving, and you're not even aware that you just did that. You know what I mean? Like that sounds pretty cool to me. So I mean, even if the whole VR thing doesn't take off, that particular use of it potentially is interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty neat tech to be able to have that sort of stuff going on. Well, we all know it's going to take off, though, because my boy Carmack is now basically owned by Facebook, and he's got all the money in the world behind him to push through the tech. So it's obviously going to succeed. Let's not kid ourselves.
No, there's been a lot of people reacting very negatively to the fact that Facebook acquired Oculus and thinking that, now they've become part of this big corporation and that, that it's going to hurt them in some way. And I mean, I guess I can understand the distrust that is there, but the fact is now they have a ton of money. Like before, they were in a situation where they had to keep getting money to survive essentially right now. Like they're not even selling a product to the public yet. Now they have like unlimited funds, and that's going to be huge for them. Now, whether or not Facebook, I mean, they say that they're focused on the gaming right now. Do you guys think that Facebook is also thinking beyond that? What we're doing right now?
No. I was trying to point at Ferg.
I don't know. I'm thinking, could I potentially creep someone's house on Facebook where they post videos of them walking through their house, or just they walk around with a camera and I can literally creep their lives real time live? That would be a whole nother creeptastic experience on Facebook. Other than that, I don't know what they're going to use it for. I'm sure they have some cool ideas. For me, they didn't pop into my mind right away.
I mean, for me, it's like let's get the actual cyberspace going here. Like when I go to visit somebody's website, I want to put on a headset and navigate through like a 3D grid of like buildings and connections to get to their website.
You want to navigate the Unix system of Jurassic Park. You want to walk that file.
He knows it.
Yep. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, has anybody heard anything about dates in terms of when either of these... Like, I've heard Oculus will be sold to the general public by the end of the year.
I haven't heard any confirmed dates or anything myself, no.
No? I have no idea what the status of Project Morpheus is. But, I don't know.
I can tell you one thing. It looks a million times better than Oculus Rift.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at some pictures today, and... Jay on Film Junk had mentioned that he got to play around with an Oculus briefly, and that it was really clunky and heavy, and it had this big strap and looked uncomfortable. And I haven't seen pictures of the new Oculus. I don't know if they kind of addressed that or not, but the Sony one looked like they spent a lot of time kind of trying to make it something that people would actually wear for a long period of time. So that's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah, I think I read also that the Sony one has like a little gap in the bottom,
right,
which doesn't totally immerse you fully like Oculus does, where it basically closes off your eyes to anything but the screens.
Right.
Whereas, with the Morpheus, you can still tell your feet are on the ground and sitting and possibly see people sneaking up on you, which may convince some people to, go with the Morpheus instead of the Oculus.
Yeah, definitely. Now, was there any other big announcements at GDC that you guys are aware of?
I don't think so. Not that I can remember.
Yeah, if anything, I thought as far as GDCs go, it was pretty light on announcements. Well, it wasn't the engine announcement that Huck City wanted to talk about. Didn't that come out of GDC, or was that?
Yeah, before? I think that did. Yeah, the Unreal Crytek stuff.
So give us the lowdown on this.
So essentially what's happened is, most likely due to Unity, Unreal Engine and Crytek are now changing their licensing fee. It used to be roughly $1 million per title per platform upon ship to use the Unreal Engine or Crytek. And now they're changing it so that it's $20 per user per month. And I don't think that's per title. I think that's just a flat kind of like user rate of the engine.
Right.
So those tools are pretty powerful, and with a small team and a reasonable timeline, you're looking at only spending, tens of thousands of dollars instead of millions of dollars to get a game out the door, which is huge for smaller studios. Like if you look at, maybe we'll go into this next, but if you look at a studio like Irrational now going down to 15 people, now them using a technology like Unreal is much more reasonable, because they'll be able to put out not a super high-end AAA title like Bioshock probably, but still a very high-end title with using tools like that, but it'll be nowhere near $1 million in cost that they'll need to pay Epic to put that kind of game out. So for sort of that like mid-tier AAA, I don't know what the technical term is, but basically
double A?
Yeah, I guess AA games. Basically, AA games will be able to really create higher quality content now, I think, with this change. And, going from having to pay $1 million down to $10,000 or whatever, that's just a lot more money into the pocket of other people, not the engine developers. And it lets, the engine developer probably go more diversified to more people, and it lets more people make games. So I think it's great. I think it's awesome.
Well, they must have metrics on it about how many startups there are, just people working out of their basements playing around with game engines that they could be getting money from, as opposed to
sure.
You would think that the people that buy Unreal licenses are much bigger companies that can afford it. They have more AAA end or mid-range productions going, so they're just opening a whole new market. And obviously, if they're 100-person studios or are bigger than that, those numbers are going to add up to $1 million pretty fast.
Yeah, sure.
Over a couple of years. So I'm sure they've done their due diligence and it makes sense. But even in the case of Irrational that you were saying, Andrew, they were already working on a modified Unreal Engine as well. So for them, it's perfect. That they maybe had information that was coming, and it might have influenced their decision.
Yeah, you take your top, 3-4 character artists and, your top 2-3 environmental artists, and all of a sudden you can put together a game pretty close to on par with Bioshock. Maybe take a little, well, maybe not longer than Bioshock, but, take a little longer than a year, let's say a 2-year project, but with a small team, you're still not adding up to $1 million to license your engine anymore.
And they probably already have the frameworks for AI, other systems that are quote unquote irrational, have started from System Shock and onwards, and all that stuff already runs on Unreal, so they'll still be able to use that stuff.
Yeah, and all their programmers are all familiar with Unreal Script and stuff like that, so it's not like there's any ramp-up time to learn the engine.
And it's just part of an ongoing trend of outsourcing in the industry. So, and contract work and getting closer to a movie-like model for financing things, and people are just on one movie contracts and not having people on staff all the time, that when there's busy times and slow times, it's just paying people for certain jobs. And if you get into a position where you are maximizing the people you have, you just get a few outside contracts, outsource what you need to, and just keep everything smaller and expand when you need to for really busy times.
Yeah, I totally agree. If it's perfect.
I think the other thing you guys haven't mentioned that's probably a factor here is it's all about, capturing the people that are learning to make games for the first time, right? Like, if you can kind of have them learn your engine and then they get into the industry and they're pushing to use that engine, then, again, that's more money in your pocket. And we all know Unity's been kind of taking over on that front for a while now. Like, I see it with a lot of the younger programmers that start at my work. They all know Unity. That's what they were taught on at school, and that's what they use for their projects at home, and that's what they know. So they come in using those tools and that mentality, and that benefits Unity. So Unreal and Crytek realize that, well, okay, we need to stay on top of this, and we need to be in that game. So that makes it a lot more feasible, I think.
And I think Unreal started to do that by releasing the UDK for free, but I don't think they really saw the uptick that they were expecting.
Right.
I think the biggest driver, if anything, for this decision is probably how few AAA titles get made these days. And it just seems to be getting smaller and smaller. You have your big franchises, but everything, when you think of how many big releases used to come out, and a lot of them would fail, that's just not happening right now. It's either a blockbuster that it's a tent pole that publishers are putting tons of money in, and they will make sure that game is good. It's very rare that you see, well, we spent $50 million on this game, it could be okay. Well,
yeah.
I think you're going to see less. Not that I've played it, but games that kind of just got forgotten, like Remember Me, that probably cost a lot of money. Lost Planet 3, not to pick on Capcom specifically, but it's just the risk is too big these days, and I think you're just going to see smaller and smaller games and more episodic productions. I don't know. To me, all these things kind of fall in line, and it just feels more like Sean was mentioning this too, a race to be an industry standard almost. There doesn't seem to be an industry standard, and if you can, cost-wise and how good your engine is, be a no-brainer choice for people, it's going to make the barrier for entry for any other engine that much more, and it'd be like, why wouldn't you? What is the downfall to using this? Nothing. Because the more people that use it, the more it gets tested, the more issues get ironed out, the more people code plugins, and that's huge in Unity, the Unity marketplace for buying small pieces of code, and it's amazing the stuff you can get and how cheap it is on there. So it's opening up that whole marketplace, I'm assuming, for stuff for Unreal. So I don't know, it's good for the industry in general, I would say.
Yeah, Unity really kind of changed it, because I know when we kind of were kicking off as Silicon Knights, it seemed like the Unreal Engine was on its way to becoming the standard.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone was working on Unreal, and I think after games started to bomb with that high price tag, I think people started getting scared off, which is where you started to see like AAA developers not being around anymore. And then Unity comes out, and all of a sudden there's this super cheap alternative. And like you're saying, Frank, with the marketplace, you essentially have this distributed development community where everyone can help each other. It's super open, and that's not what Unreal is. I mean, you had the Unreal forums, but it's not like you went and posted code up there when you came up with new new tech. You kept that internal to your company, and maybe you said, oh, I use this and that, or you requested Epic to do something, but there wasn't really any sort of public space for tech in the Unreal community.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on some of the changes that are happening in the industry there, Frank, but we mentioned Irrational Games, and that was a big story. I mean, whenever I go back through I usually go back through the Game Junk Facebook page when I'm preparing for a new episode to look at what news stories there have been. And usually 10 to 15%, maybe more, is layoffs, companies shutting down, downsizing. I mean, it's still happening, and it's pretty crazy. But now you're getting to the point where well-known names, big names in the game industry, are choosing to leave and go off and do an indie thing because they just they're sick of how big games are getting and how the budgets are huge and you can't take risks anymore, so they just want to do something small and be creative, and that seems to be the trend a lot of people are following, and that happened with Irrational.
And I think with the success of Double Fine, that people see that it is viable, you can do it, so I think that's helping. Like when Ken Levine's just yep, we're going to close down mostly. And then, are they keeping the name Irrational?
I'm not sure. I don't remember reading that. I mean, it kind of was being framed as Irrational is done.
Yeah, I know it said in the article I read that they're still working, Ken Levine's core team there, 15 or whatever, is still working under Take-Two. So it sounds like they still have a partnership with Take-Two, but I wasn't totally clear if they're going to still be under the Irrational sort of brand. But
I would not be surprised if they're taking a small team and making Bioshock Infinite on PS4 and Xbox One, and then maybe prototyping a new game at the same time. It seems like that if you were gonna do that kind of thing, you would not need a huge team to do that, and everyone's doing it, taking popular games towards the end of the last gen consoles and making next gen versions. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a struggle to get those games running on PS4 and Xbox One. So it's just another chance to make money with that. Why wouldn't you take that and start working on something else? Everyone is doing that.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of, I think it's a problem in some respect, because we talked about this a little bit during the Twitch live stream, but it's there's such a lack of content still for the new consoles, and it's because all these games take so long to make, and especially when you're dealing with a new system and people are still learning the ins and outs. So I mean, you've got the launch titles, which were pretty underwhelming, and then just a huge gap while people ramp up and try to put out these big games. And so you've got tons of for the PlayStation 4, they've got tons of indie games that could be released for PS3 or Vita, but they're forcing them to be PS4 exclusive first, just so we have PS4 content, like Towerfall Ascension, which is great, and we'll talk about it, but doesn't have to be on PS4. And then you've got stuff like what you're talking about, Frank, where it's just Tomb Raider and games like that, just do an upgraded version. And then you've got games like Titanfall, where it's okay, we're just going to focus on one section of what normally would be, just a part of a full AAA game, the multiplayer, and that's all we're giving you. And I don't know, some people are saying that could be the start of, now we're only going to get single-player only games or multiplayer only games, or if you get two parts, like a Halo, the next Halo, maybe they'll sell them separately. The Halo multiplayer will be separate from the Halo single player or something like that. And I mean, it's just, I think it's because the games are so big and they cost so much to make that it's not feasible. They need to get stuff out quicker, and they can't do it.
In general, I'm fine with that, to be honest. I in the past, and I've talked about this before, and I'll get into it again with some of the games we talk about, this idea of value in video games doesn't make sense to me. And it's almost ridiculous what people deem value for a game. When I think of you pay $30 for a Blu-ray, that's an hour and a half at times, and people are upset paying $50 for a game that isn't 60 hours of gameplay. I understand that not everyone has a lot of extra money to spend to buy games here every week, but in terms of what the standard for value in video games is, it's getting a little ridiculous, and I think the industry is coming back down to size. So at the end of the last generation, everything's available, everything's ready, so you're making sequels, and it's easy to just keep adding on and jam-packing value into a game, but when you're starting over, this model of value gets completely readjusted, and I think it would probably look like some kind of graph that's climbing, and then when a new console comes, content drops and then climbs back up again. So I don't know. We prefer shorter games. We've been on record for that for a long time. So I agree,
but I don't want to pay $60 necessarily for a shorter game. Like, you got to admit.
Why though? What's the difference? You don't even play the $60 game anyway. What's the difference if you actually get to beat that $60 game and the money and time of the developers is put into making that 6-hour experience as amazing as possible? Why is that not better for everyone?
Well, because the thing is, I know that there's tons of other games that I could pay much less for and get more gameplay and just as much enjoyment out of. Like, I love all the indie games that are coming out now, but I can't help whenever a AAA $60 game comes out, I can't help but compare the two now and think I actually probably get more enjoyment out of the indie game and I'm paying way less. So, I mean, yeah, I still buy AAA games occasionally, but not as much as I used to. And something like Metal Gear Ground Zeroes, like, I don't know, man. I can totally understand people being pissed off with the value that they got for what they paid for that game.
I am not completely disagreeing with you in the case of Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes. It doesn't feel like a complete narrative or a complete experience, which is the difference. If the game feels like a complete game and it told a story more like an extended movie and not a 70-hour game or a Skyrim game, I mean, I am not interested in spending time in games walking from place to place and extending things for the sake of extending them and making me play a slow walk animation in certain situations to extend sequences. Like, that kind of stuff I'm sick of. And I would just rather have a really fun game. And you say you get as much fun out of these indie games as the major titles, but when it comes down to it, if you look at our best of the year every year, how many of them are indie games? Probably 2 out of 10. So
not for me.
Clearly says something. No, you're maybe 6 out of 10, but you have a lot more, and your number 1 or 2 or 3 games are always big budget games.
Usually.
So that's saying something right there.
Yeah, it means that, the AAA games are still where you go for the absolute cutting edge, mind-blowing experiences, but on the whole, I still think indie games are way more interesting. But, my point of this whole conversation was not to trash AAA and not to be AAA versus indie. I'm just saying that it feels like there's a lot of trade-offs being made right now. And I think, people are still not willing to buy these new consoles. There's not a lot out there. Now, there is Titanfall and there is Infamous. Those are the 2 killer apps that are finally out there. But that's still not a lot.
But the Unreal thing, clearly that is helping smaller companies that would be quote-unquote indie make games that are closer to AAA with less time and less money.
Right.
So for me, as far as like the monetary value of a game, I think for me, it doesn't come down to graphics. Like, I think AAA is more and more associated with graphics, but for me, I think it's almost variety of gameplay mechanics that are the value for me. So like, if you take a game like Journey, it's 2-3 hours, whatever it was, but really there wasn't very many gameplay mechanics, right? There was floating and walking. Right. I don't know if there was anything else, but I don't think so. Standing in front of a signpost or something and watching it light up. But
there's a little more than that, Huck. I don't remember much,
but isn't that but you like Journey, right?
I love Journey, and I only paid $15 for it. You know, I had 2 or 3 mechanics, $15 for 3 hours, perfect price point, I thought. But if I were to pay $60 for Journey, I think I would be a lot more disappointed. Meanwhile, a game like Tomb Raider has tons and tons of mechanics, way more than 3. And I paid $60 for that, and I didn't feel like I underpaid. Maybe I did, actually. I don't know. It's a pretty damn good game. But if that game was $15, I would have been blown out of water that it was so cheap.
Right.
So I think if you buy a game like Flower 2, right? Flower is another example of a game with very few mechanics that has a low price point. Towerfall, very few mechanics, low price point. So for me, I think I value games based on the mechanics more than anything else. And I feel that if your game only has 1 or 2 mechanics, even if it's the best game out there, if it's awesome, like Journey, I think your price point probably doesn't deserve to be $60.
What about like a mini game collection or something? Then you've got tons of mechanics, but potentially low price point.
I guess so. I mean, maybe that's the...
I kind of see what you're saying. I just think you're thinking about it a little bit like a programmer in the sense that you know how much work went into each of those elements of the game, and then the more of them that are there, the more you feel like you got your money's worth.
At the same time, though, I think the more mechanics you have, now they could be horrible mechanics, which could be a detriment as well, but usually the more mechanics you have, the more variety there is in the game, and the longer it will take you to become bored with anything that's in that game, therefore extending your enjoyment over longer periods of time. So, like, I've been thinking, because I'm working on Citizens of Earth, I've been thinking about RPGs a lot, and I'm thinking that, you know, a lot of role-playing games that came out on, like, the NES era, they had, you know, the standard walk around, get in battles, do the battle, blah, blah, blah. But then if you look at a lot of the Final Fantasy games, they also had sort of, like, moving block puzzles. They had, you know, dialogue kind of puzzles. They had a lot of other aspects to the game that kept you going. Mario is a prime example of this. Like, I think Frank was talking about it 1 or 2 shows ago when he was talking about the Catsuit game and how, you know, Nintendo puts in 1 or 2 mechanics that you only see, you know, 1 or 2 times in the game, and that kind of stuff, that kind of depth of mechanics really adds value to games. And I think if you just like have 2 mechanics and you just grind them into the floor, you're going to get bored with it and you're not going to want to go back to it. And I think by having a lot of mechanics, maybe that you don't even really use to their full potential, I think it gives you a lot more value. And I think those games should be worth more. I don't know how you would actually come up with a metric for, you know, defining what game is worth what, but in my eyes, I feel that that's how I judge the value of a game, if it's reasonable or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking about stuff like Grand Theft Auto, where there's like tons of mini games and tons of things, different things you can do in the game. You can play through the story, you can play through the side quests, or you can not do any of that at all and just make your own fun, right? Like, those are generally the kinds of games that people say are worth the money. Those are the games that everyone who owns a console will buy. And I understand why. But I don't know.
I mean, at the same time, you know, Uncharted technically probably doesn't have that many mechanics, but I think they put them into scenarios that make them act like, you know, they're interesting scenarios. They're not just, here's another room with 10 guys to kill, etc.
I was thinking about Uncharted, just like when you were mentioning the Mario thing, I felt that exact same way about Uncharted 2. Like, I remember discussing it with people and saying, you know, the thing that impresses me most is it feels like every scenario you get into is a slightly different scenario, and there's something custom made about it.
They kind of do it with set pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
Which are their mechanics kind of thing. Like the train, super iconic. The the airplane one in Uncharted 3. Super iconic scenes, right? So those are almost like mechanics in themselves for those games, I think.
Right.
I was just saying, for me and Sean, two guys who buy games and never play them. Like
one more than others.
This concept of value is kind of a joke to me, and I just get sick of. I'm going to talk specifically about Infamous Second Son, which one of the biggest knocks against it is that it's too short, and I couldn't disagree more. I think it's fucking perfect. And in terms of pacing, and it reminds me of Uncharted in its pacing, if not better. To have its pacing in an open world game is insane and so impressive. And if Huck City's talking about value in mechanics and how many different things are put into it gameplay wise, this game is for him. It is so good.
Which is funny because I wasn't really a big fan of Infamous 1 and 2. But they had lots of mechanics. It just didn't do it for me. I played them both, but I would still say though, those games are worth $60. I just didn't enjoy them. So on my scale, it still is good.
But even then, it's bullshit. Because is value what people are willing to pay for it, or what? Because you could charge $300 for Call of Duty and people would still pay for it.
Yeah, well, they tried to do that service where, you have a monthly subscription and they give you extra content and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, but let's be honest. If you can't establish value, and what counts if there's no cap on value? I mean, if there is a cap on value. If nothing can be more than $70, how can we accurately evaluate value in video?
But they're breaking that rule with their deluxe editions and stuff like that.
That's not the same. I'm saying if you were to charge just for the game Call of Duty, the next Call of Duty, I guarantee you they could comfortably charge $100 for it, not a problem, and sell close to the amount of copies, or the gross would be the same.
But I think there are people that are predicting that might happen, that will come to pass.
Okay, and then I think that effectively takes the conversation of value off the table. It's a marketplace generated thing.
Supply and demand.
Free market.
Exactly.
Free video game market.
But I mean, like,
what if video games traded like stock? Like you buy in early on these games, and guess what? I bought in early on Call of Duty. I'm getting these games for $40. You came late to the party. The value of Call of Duty is going up and up and up.
Well, unfortunately, the value of
fucked up system like that.
That would be crazy.
Unfortunately, the value of old video games will not go up until maybe 20 years later.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that kind of brings up a minor news story, which is that in Canada the prices of games did go up, and it's now $70 or $69 is the standard price for a console game. And I will say, like, I mean, the only thing I've bought since the price went up was Infamous, and I went out of my way to find a place that had a deal on it, so I only paid $60. And somehow that extra $10, it feels wrong, and it feels like I'm going to go out of my way now to not pay that any way I can. But it's been a while.
You'll get used to it, believe me.
Maybe.
I remember, I think Mario 2 was $69.99 for Nintendo when it came out.
Yeah.
I mean, the industry just goes through fluctuations, and whatever.
I remember when I think Mortal Kombat came out for Super Nintendo. That was like an extra $10. I think it was like $70 instead of $60 or something like that. Like, there have been examples of this in the past where people just thought, well, this game is going to be so popular, we can just jack up the price. And it clearly worked at the time. But I mean, especially when you're talking about a new console and, the fact that Sony's console, like people like Huck City, potentially were waiting to see if there's going to be a price cut or a deal, and now the price just went up $50. That's
for
crazy.
once, being an early adopter paid off. I couldn't be happy. Fuck everyone else. I fucking couldn't care less. Eat it.
Gonna just have to smuggle one over the border, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It goes up to $600. Keep climbing, baby.
All right, was there any other new stuff you guys wanted to talk about, or should we get into some games?
I don't really need to talk about any of the things.
I feel like we covered the important stuff anyway.
Yeah.
I'll just mention Last of Us PS4 edition. Can't wait.
Yeah?
Super excited. Oh, yeah.
So this doesn't bother you? You don't...
I love the trend of HD remakes.
But it's funny, because, like, is it even an HD remake? Cause,
no,
like...
I guess remastered. Next-gen remakes. Bring them on. All day.
It's going from 2 times anti-aliasing to 4 times anti-aliasing.
I have the Tomb Raider PS4 version, but I haven't put it in to compare. So, Frank, what's the comparison on that?
I don't care. I just wanted to play it again.
I know, but I'm saying for people who do care, is there a noticeable difference?
I didn't notice that big of a difference other than Lara Croft's face and hair, which was a little bit darker. Her hair's a bit darker, which was a little off-putting. Maybe a little too uncanny valley-ish in the PS4 version.
Yeah,
really.
But I didn't notice a huge difference. I just love the game. I don't even care. I want to get another set of trophies. I want to get that 100% again.
So
that's all I care.
You're just looking for an excuse.
And I might buy it again on Xbox One.
Just start a new profile.
I want the achievements. Why would I play it again and not be getting new trophies?
Well, you can get it again on Dirty Frank version 2.
I guess. That's a whole nother... I don't even want to get into that idea.
All right, well, let's get into some games then.
Should we talk about the Twitch stream?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of games we played live on Twitch at Site B at Frank's place. And I guess the big one we got together to play was Titanfall, which, you know, I don't know if it's actually... I assume it's helping sales of Xbox One somewhat. I haven't really seen sales numbers or anything. Have you guys heard anything about it?
No, I haven't.
I know that the 360 version of it is still not out, and they keep delaying it, and I think it's pretty clear that they want to keep it Xbox One exclusive as long as possible to get people to buy it.
Conspiracy theory, Sean?
Not necessarily even... I mean, I'm sure they've actually said that at some point, but...
Yeah, I wonder how much it's the game's just not up to snuff yet, and how much they're actually trying to keep it down.
I mean...
Well, Sean clearly thinks the game's running and has been running for a year on Xbox 360. Apparently. This is just literally holding it back to drive people to buy an Xbox One, and I love where his head is at. He is probably... I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Oh, it's definitely... But it did actually come out last week. I'm just reading.
Oh, did
the
it?
360
version. I don't know
version.
what the fuck you were talking about.
Okay, well, I guess that they couldn't hold it back anymore.
That's how much buzz has been around it. We didn't even know it came out, I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising. I canceled my Xbox Live account, so I guess I'm not going to pick it up. But I did enjoy playing it at Frank's place for even just the short period of time we played. Because obviously, I mean, I'm not a big multiplayer gamer, and knowing that this came from some of the guys who worked on Call of Duty and whatnot, I was expecting a very unforgiving experience. But it seems to me that they had that in mind, and they knew that this had to be a more mainstream game that everyone could jump in and have fun with it. And I don't remember if we talked about this on the live stream or afterwards, but I think a big factor is the AI controlled players that are in the game, the bots, if you will, because it's not always clear if you're shooting another human being or a bot, but having them there and being able to kill some guys and feel like you're actually doing something and get your confidence up and you're in the game, that helped, I think, for me anyway.
Yeah, I thought the game always felt like there was something going on. There was always action around you. I didn't really know. I mean, we only played it for, maybe 10 minutes each or so. So I didn't really pick up on who was AI and who wasn't. I just knew I was shooting guys. There was always guys around. There was always action happening. Going in and out of the mechs was pretty fun. I know I've read things about how you can call your Titan down and then jump out and kind of use it as a decoy, but we never really got into that. That's probably a whole nother level of competitiveness that would add more value, more fun to the game, which we didn't get into, but I also had a great time playing it. I know I went on a run with just my pistol and was dominating everybody, so...
Gotta love it.
Yeah, less is more.
So, Frank, obviously you've played a lot more Titanfall than we have. Have you put a significant amount of time into this game? Have you been playing it a lot, or did it kind of fade out?
Absolutely not, Sean. I played it a bit the day it came out, and I will not even get into the day before, having bought Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, trying to link my EA Origins account to my gamertag on my Xbox One. It literally took me 6 hours with customer service.
Oh boy.
Trying to get this working.
You must have been snapping.
I was. And I didn't want to create another Origin account. I just stopped. Are you drinking Fresca?
No, I'm drinking Nestea.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
You got to point it at the camera.
I really
over
liked
there,
it at first. I think my biggest barrier to entry to playing this game is not having friends playing it. I mean, it's fun playing online. I want to have some private jam sessions, get my boys.
You want to have a good old LAN party.
Yeah, but you still have to have an Xbox One. Like, you guys need to get Xbox Ones. What's the fucking deal? There was that perfect time, the package, and then I sent a link to Sean.
I didn't see that. That was already the price in at Walmart in the U.S.
Yeah, but did you see the deal? If you bought that, everything else on that list, you got $20 off of.
Yeah, I wasn't that interested in any of the other stuff.
You could add two more games. You could have got Ryse for $20, Forza for $20. You could have got another controller for $35. It was a no-brainer. That was the thing. And you just let it slip through your fingertips, and I could not be more upset for you.
But you bring up an interesting point. I mean, I think that's a big reason why they wanted this to be the big sort of showcase Xbox One game. Is it's a multiplayer game, and they know that if you play and your friends see you playing, they're going to want to play, and then that's the way to get everyone buying an Xbox One. I don't know if it's working or not, but apparently from what I was just Googling, it says that the Xbox 360 sales of Titanfall are at 71% and Xbox One sales are 27%. So, and this is just
total.
And this is just in the first week of it coming out on Xbox 360.
Wow. Is there any reviews? Go to Metacritic or something. I want to see how the 360 is doing. Obviously, it's not getting completely killed because it's sold almost 80% of the total sales.
It's 85 on Metacritic.
It's for the 360? Or I guess for all?
It says 360.
Jeez. Pretty good then.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, I'm probably not the target audience for this game. Just I prefer single player experiences.
Yeah. Now there is a single player.
There's a campaign.
How does that work? Like, there's cutscenes and stuff, right?
Yeah, like these small cutscenes at the beginning and end. That I don't know what the fuck is going on. Pretty much everyone has said this in the reviews. It's trying to integrate some weird story with two sides fighting each other, and I just couldn't give a shit about it. It's nothing. It's an embarrassment.
Ouch. Do you think that if there was even like a really short single player campaign, that would add to your enjoyment of the multiplayer game, like sort of fleshing out the universe and whatnot?
I think so, yeah. I always like to get started in a single-player campaign first.
Yeah. I guess the other thing that's kind of cool with this game is the wall running. That seems like, Yeah, those mechanics actually work really well and a lot better than I thought they would. And the platforming
for first person is really fluid. Might be the best since Jumping Flash on PSX.
Whoa. Bold words. But yeah, I mean, I think even just the fact that they chose to make getting a mech feel special, you know, like not everyone, I mean, maybe there are game modes where everyone just starts with a mech, but the general gameplay is that you kind of have to wait around and then you get your opportunity to pilot a mech and then you take advantage of it.
I think I prefer playing as a pilot, to be honest. I really like the pistols that they have and the other guns. I like both versions, really.
Seemed like it added a nice little strategy element to it as well, where you can use your mech just to blow guys away. You can use it as a distraction. You can not have it at all. So whereas like if you're playing completely in a mech or just completely on foot, you don't really have that strategic element that this game adds.
Right. So what else did we play on the Xbox One? I know there was
Zeroes.
Yeah,
speaking of single player,
Metal Gear Solid, Ground Zeroes, was that on Xbox One? Well, we did play it either way.
It was Xbox One.
You've played the whole story, campaign, whatever, right, Frank?
Yep.
And how long did it take you?
68 minutes, I think.
Wow.
It might have been longer with dying, but my gameplay time was 68 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
It looked nice, though.
Yeah, it was fun. It's really. I haven't played the extra missions. People they say there's tons of extra stuff. The fun is replaying the level or the game and doing it in new ways. I could see that. I actually will replay it again. I'm pretty sure about that. But I definitely understand the criticisms that this is a glorified demo. It's really hard not to. And, I mean, unless this extra trials and all these extra missions are amazing, I mean, in a way, I felt refreshingly gypped by a game. I was done it. I could check it off. I played through that game.
Right.
But I could, if you don't have a lot of cash, it is a bit of a ripoff. It's hard not to say that, unless you love Metal Gear. If you love Metal Gear, like I know Blake, one of our listeners, was saying he's played through it 1,000,000 times and loves it. That's fine. This is for you. That's not a problem. But if you're just an average gamer, I would think you would be disappointed with the length. And that's coming from me, the guy who loves short games. I don't give a fuck about value. Even I was shy. And I think the biggest crime with it is it's framed as an epilogue, I guess, and a precursor to Metal Gear 5. And I really don't even understand what the story was. They tell you what you're doing in this little texting at the beginning. You're trying to save two people from a camp. But in terms of there being a narrative within that hour and a half, I would think you would take that opportunity, if you're going to have a short game, to tell a really tight story. We've talked about this idea of, remember Steven Spielberg's game being a 2-hour game that's more like an interactive movie and different ways of playing it through.
Right.
And I could see that working in this Metal Gear game, but they don't at all. The story is so sparse, and if for a guy who loves cinematics, and I do like the style of the cinematics, but in terms of storytelling, it feels like a missed opportunity to jam-pack a really cool, tight story that you could follow. Because one of the biggest complaints about Metal Gear is if you're playing Metal Gear for 10, 12 hours, it's so complex. So you need to know this history of Metal Gear that you can just get lost and not care about it.
And are usually playing that over a few weeks, not in a 10-hour sitting.
So to miss the opportunity of a game that's this short and tell an awesome, compact story that acts like a movie feels like, for someone like Kojima, a huge missed opportunity.
Well, and it just adds to the feeling of it being a demo and them saying, well, we were working on the new Metal Gear game, and you know what? They really needed some new content for the next gen console, so let's just cut it off here and ship it. I mean, that's what it feels like, right?
Yeah.
Now, in terms of gameplay, is there some new stuff here for Metal Gear fans, or is it just the same Metal Gear with better graphics?
I mean, I'm not the best critic of this because I haven't exhausted gameplay options.
Right.
But it felt like Metal Gear, to be honest, Metal Gear 4 in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is fine. I think it's good. And what I kind of like about Metal Gear is, as much as it's a barrier to entry, it plays different than other games. You're kind of relearning how to play Metal Gear when you play it. I find most games just kind of, especially shooters and third-person shooters, there's like this standard control scheme now, right? That if you do variations on it, you're almost hurting yourself. People are used to this being reload. We have to make sure that it feels like a game people have played before. I like that Metal Gear, and I guess you would say this about Final Fantasy too. Those franchises make their own rules. When I think about Final Fantasy, it's that circle was always confirm, not X, on Final Fantasy VII and the PlayStation 1 Final Fantasies. And they kind of stuck to their guns, and they said, this is our rules for games. This is what we like. This is what we're used to. And almost having the balls to say, we're not going to change because this is what's popular in games right now. And sometimes it can hurt them, but I, in a way, appreciate that those franchises stick to their guns control-wise, and stuff that's unconventional, they embrace it rather than trying to fit into the norm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the differences would be that Metal Gear, that you have the first-person view, but you can't move and shoot in first-person view, right? Unless they've added that in recent versions.
Yeah, they might have added that. I'm not sure. I never play in first-person.
Yeah, but I mean, it's always been very much, third-person game. Stop, aim, shoot, move on. It's not like a run-and-gun type of game.
Yeah, I would say this one is maybe a bit more run-and-gun.
Oh,
but again, Metal Gear's all about the way you play, right? You could play it traditional Metal Gear, very slow, stealthy, and it still works in that context. That's always been, especially with Metal Gear 4, what makes it interesting, the variety of ways to approach missions.
Right. Okay, so what else? Well, I know just as we were getting to your place, you were playing Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare, and I know you're raving about this game.
Well, I wouldn't say raving. I haven't played it that much, but the brief time that I played it as another casual attempt to leech onto the first-person shooter market, or third-person shooter, online competitive shooter market, I think it's kind of fun and different and works, and I like Plants vs. Zombies and the universe, and I like the art style, so I mean, for $40, it's fun, and I haven't exhausted all the gameplay modes and some of the more team-based horde mode type things, but in terms of the deathmatch, it was interesting, and I don't know, I keep meaning to revisit it more. I just kind of got sidetracked with a few other single-player games that I wanted to beat.
So that one is also multiplayer only?
Correct.
Interesting.
Both EA games may be worth mentioning.
Right. What else? Was there...
Well, we played some Ryse, which I have since finished the campaign.
Okay. And?
Now, I'm going to go on record.
Uh-oh.
It's not amazing, but Ryse has been one of the most overlooked games of the next generation.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the knock is it's repetitive, which I would not disagree with. But what I was most impressed by is, in terms of, it reminded me of Uncharted in its visual pacing. Every level has a different look, surprisingly, color-wise, color scheme-wise, location. I always felt I was going somewhere new for the most part, and while the gameplay can get repetitive, what I felt I played this game almost in chapters, and you could say whether that's a bad thing about the game. But I would play it for a bit, put it down, and I was looking forward to coming back, playing for a bit. I'd get my fill, and that's how I kind of tackled the game, which is rare, but it works in the case of Ryse. I think that's the way to play Ryse. And technically, graphically, it looks amazing. Probably one of the best up until Infamous of the next-gen consoles, for me anyway. And this is a small thing, but it has the best menu system ever.
Really?
One of the best. It's the main menu is the menu for the game all the time. There's no separate menus. You start the game with the pause menu, essentially. And everything is accessible from there. Multiplayer, the way they track progress is artistically extremely impressive, and just a single point of entry for the game, which I think is very good at portraying information and looks good and is easy to understand. I was super impressed with the menu.
It's not something you usually hear raved about.
Yeah.
I think
it should be.
Yeah, I think when Dax was playing it at your place, we were saying how it is like an artist's wet dream because it just looks so pretty. I mean, he was gushing over the animations. I know, like, the environment art was pretty impressive, like you were saying. And I think I don't know if we talked about this on that Twitch channel, but how I got the feeling that game was like a game where it's getting low reviews because reviewers are being forced to play it in one quick kind of like go. And that's more of like a slow burn game where, you know, you play a bit, you enjoy it, you start to get sick of it, you put it down, you come back to it later, and it would still maintain that enjoyable aspects of it, but only for a short period of time, and then you just kind of like, that's like the slow burn through it. And I don't think anyone, like, I know reviewers don't have the time to just do that. And I think there are more and more games out there like that are, you know, shit upon by reviewers because if you overplay their mechanics, they do get boring and they do get frustrating, but taken in smaller chunks, they're enjoyable.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I mean, I've heard some debate over that with regards to, you know, how people review video games. But, you know, I guess it depends because I think that I always feel that, like, when I'm into a game and I'm playing it a lot and going back to it a lot, I'm getting a lot more out of it and I'm generally enjoying it more. So I feel like most games are better if you play them as a streamlined experience. But I guess
I agree with that though too.
But I guess, yeah, there are probably some exceptions. And I agree, it looks awesome. I think I'm wondering why. I mean, maybe it was more of a choice to be a little bit more historically accurate. But it's like, you know, your main character just feels so slow and like weighed down by armor, and like, you know, it's not a crazy action game where you feel powerful and fun. It's I don't know, it feels slow and sluggish a little bit.
I didn't necessarily get that. I just think it's different in the way it approaches combat, and it is limited. I get that. I just think now that it's $40, $30, that it's, in terms of value, maybe a better price point for people out there. And I don't think they should necessarily look directly at reviews for that game, and if there's demos, they should give it a try.
Right. So, should we jump to some PS4 stuff, or was there any other Xbox One
I'll
games?
add one more Xbox One game that I've been playing the shit out of, which is Peggle 2.
Yes.
Almost have. I'm missing one achievement for the full thou on that. Probably the first time I've thousanded a game in,
at least a week?
Since I did. No, it might be since I did it live on Game Junk.
Really?
I don't know if I've thousanded a game since then. So, big milestone, big comeback for my Xbox One phase recently. And Peggle 2, when I first got it, I was kind of, yeah, it's Peggle. Not a lot new here, but now I love it in terms of the challenges and trials and all the stuff going on. I love it. I was pretty addicted to it for a while. So I've hit a few challenges that are proving to be a challenge, if you can believe it. And,
I don't believe it.
It impeded my progress, but I still love the game.
I just want it to come out for a portable device.
And I just want it never to come out for you to be able to play it unless you buy Xbox.
Well, out of all the games, it is the game that makes me want an Xbox One the most. But all right, so PlayStation 4, I mean, I think the one we spent the most time playing was probably Towerfall Ascension.
Yep.
Which is a 4-player multiplayer game. Another multiplayer-only game, although obviously it's an indie game. It's lower price point, kind of retro graphics and whatnot. I had a blast with it. I just, it's one of those games where it's like I wish I could buy it and play it at home, but I have no one to play with here. So again, there is some single-player stuff with this one, I believe. Did you try any of that, Frank?
Briefly, not much though.
Right. So, is it just playing against computer-controlled opponents, or is it challenge stuff?
Essentially enemies, kind of like, I don't know, Bubble? Would that be accurate a bit? Like,
sure.
Yeah, just reminded me of that. Just introduction to mechanics and stuff like that you use in multiplayer.
Bubble?
Yeah. Isn't that the one where there's all the levels and you're capturing them in bubbles? Like, if you take the bubble mechanic from Bubble Bobble...
Like, you keep moving up a level or whatever as you climb
stuff
up?
Like that. Yeah, I don't know. That's
okay. Sure, I guess. Sure.
Not Bust a Move, Andrew.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. Bust a Move, yeah.
So, I guess just for people who don't know or aren't familiar with it, 4-player game, and you're shooting arrows at the other guys, and I guess you have 3 arrows, and once you use those up, you can't shoot any more arrows unless you pick others up or if you get some sort of power up or something. And you can actually catch arrows in midair and shoot them back, which I don't think any of us got good enough to really do that. But
no, I don't think so.
It's very simple, and there's not a lot to it, but it seemed like the more you played, there's a lot of different...
It's got tight mechanics.
Yeah. And, you can drop on somebody to kill them, or I think there's like a melee attack when you're up close as well.
There's also sort of like the levels wrap around the sides and around the top and bottom, so there are interesting sort of not advantages, but loophole strategies you can take where you can almost take people by surprise by shooting arrows in certain directions that'll take advantage of the wrap.
Yeah. And, it has the little replay for the last kill, which Frank got sick of, but I think is a nice touch.
No, stupid.
And I think it speaks volumes that, that Jay was also quite into the game.
Yeah, we had everyone playing that one. Everyone was into it.
Yeah. So.
And if anything, Dax was saying, well, this is stupid. This is for losers. This shit. I don't get into this. And he got into it pretty good.
Oh, yeah, he wanted to keep playing big time.
Yeah.
It was a ton of fun. I mean, obviously, I think I was talking to Sean one day. The fact that there's no good local co-op game for PS4 is a huge disappointment, and this fits that bill, at least in some regards.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's not a lot of local co-op anything anymore, really, right? Like... we've talked about this in the past, I'm sure, but I just wish there was more games like this. And I think there have been interviews with the developers. I think it's mainly one guy that worked on the game, and people saying, "Well, why don't you add online multiplayer to this game?" And I'm sure part of the reason is just that it's more work, and he's one guy. But I like the fact that it was envisioned as a local multiplayer game, and he stuck to that, and it clearly has been a hit with people who actually can take advantage of that.
You probably won't be able to capture the same feel online.
I don't think so.
Having to deal with the lag and everything would be probably more work than it's worth.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely if you have some friends and you have a PS4, might want to check it out.
Kind of related to this game, for people who don't have a PS4 but have Steam or PC, I recommend another game called... Well, I think you can get this on PC also, but there's another game very similar called Samurai Gun.
Right.
Which is very similar, which I had played before this. Very similar mechanics, except you have a gun and a sword instead of arrows and dropping on people's heads. And it's basically the same style of 4-on-4, melee brawl. But it too is a lot of fun if you feel like picking that one up instead.
Yeah, I guess another game that would be a comparison to be made is the Super Smash Brothers games.
Yeah, that's true.
But other interesting little tidbit about that game is that it was originally released for the Ouya. So I would have thought Frank would have been a pro at this game by now.
If I had opened my Ouya, perhaps. That brown brushed metal system is just appreciating every day. It's going to be worth thousands.
Oh, yeah.
Thousands of pennies.
So, what else did we play for PlayStation 4? The only other thing I had written down here was Outlast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I played that briefly.
Yeah,
Frank peed his pants.
So this is the survival horror game. Is it still free on PlayStation Plus?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
I know it was initially. And this was out on Steam or for PC a while back, but is now out for PlayStation 4. And, we got a brief taste of it. I like the idea that it was almost like a take on like the found footage films in video game form, because you have a video camera and you have to use the night vision feature on that, and you're trying to capture video footage because you're like a journalist or something. I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. The unfortunate problem with games like this, and especially a lower budget indie title, is the voice acting is terrible. And I think you pointed out as you were playing it, Frank, it was creepy and suspenseful right up to the point where somebody talks and then it just evaporates.
Really? I don't remember. I was juiced at that. But
I just remember you being scared of that hanging dude.
Yeah.
And then wanting to shut it off.
It's a fucking haunted house game. What do you want, right?
Yeah, that's true.
What I'm expecting, and
we didn't do any favors by.
We didn't do any what? Sorry.
I was gonna say we didn't do any favors by turning off all the lights and making it as dark as possible.
Of course, but for me, it was more how frustrating it was getting into the haunted house. This game got pretty good reviews. They're decent. And it's okay, but I don't see that. I thought it was kind of lame and maybe getting a little free pass.
Yeah, we actually had to...
As an indie game, as a Steam game, which...
we actually had to wait for the people in the chat to actually tell us where to go, because we couldn't find that window or whatever around the one side.
Yeah, it was a little bit confusing.
The game's a joke. Jeez. I would have never got if it wasn't free, so at least I didn't pay for it.
Yep. So, what else? Anything for PlayStation 4 that we played as a group?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want to jump into some Infamous then while we're on that topic, Frank?
Sure. Which I beat last night and have already... This game is so fucking good. I started it up again right away, and I'm already halfway through it again.
Wow.
I played for 3 hours more last night. I played till 4 in the morning, and I played another 3 hours today. I love this game. Absolutely love it. I have not... The pacing is amazing. How often you're getting new powers. Everything is so intuitive in terms of the map, the layout, how to accomplish things in the game. It does not make anything frustrating. Well, maybe one little thing that I'll talk about later, but I thought I would hate the protagonist. I thought he'd be this super rad dude that I would want to kill, but I actually like it, and I like the dynamic between him and his brother more than I thought I would, and the the facial capture and performance capture is awesome. The effects and colors are mind-blowingly good, and the integration of power sources is almost so good that it should have been obvious to me which things meant stuff in the game, and I didn't even see it coming. How you end up using things in the game later, all these things scattered in the world, I just kind of, everything looks the same. I guess the comparison would be old Resident Evil games where everything is in like pre-rendered backgrounds except for some weird objects that are so obvious, and the way we highlight certain things in games now with these gloss post-process effects and mesh effects to indicate that's what you want to use and this is special whereas this is normal. In this game it's seamless the way they create the universe.
Is it kind of like the yellow blocks in Uncharted, the ones you can climb on?
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that. In this game, the way you know what's important is by your map. And Infamous games have always had the best maps and cool map ideas. And I got to give credit to Grand Theft Auto. Something might have done it before, but just the idea of tilting the map in your direction and giving you like a directional look into the world rather than top down is one of the smartest things to happen to minimaps ever. I don't know. I just wanted to keep playing this game. The small tasks in an open world game, I just want to go do the next one. I want to completely do everything in an area, have it done, go on to the next thing, to the point where I'm doing that before I even go to the story because it's so much fun. And most of all, the progression of powers and how much fun it is traversing the levels. The mechanics of getting around the city are amazing. The fast travel system is not great, and I don't care. I don't ever want to use it. I want to explore and get all the hidden stuff, blast shards, do whatever, and just use the fast, effective mechanics for getting around the world. I don't know. I love this game. It is really short. I don't think too short in my opinion. I think it's well balanced and paced, and the last boss fight is fantastic.
Well, I really like it as well. I mean, the world traversal stuff, I was very much reminded of Batman Arkham City.
It gets so much better, Sean. Oh.
I was also reminded of City of Heroes back when I used to play that, and that was one of the most fun things in that game was just, getting new powers and being able to, like, fly or jump really high and cross a city in a single bound. And I like the fact that it's actually a real city, that it's Seattle. I mean, I don't think it's, as far as I know, not that realistic, but they have certain landmarks and things. It feels kind of like a real city, and the idea that it's kind of been taken over and it's on lockdown and whatnot was pretty cool. And I was also quite surprised with the voice acting and the performance capture stuff. I mean, that was the stuff I was expecting to really kill it for me, and early on, I was pulled into the story, surprisingly. Even though the story itself isn't groundbreaking stuff, I liked the characters, and that's really all you care about for the most part in video games. And yeah, I mean, I played a little bit of the first Infamous. I didn't play the second one. But this one, I don't know, it did feel like just all the things that any issues that were there before have kind of been ironed out, and it is now a totally intuitive, streamlined experience. Anything that was frustrating or not fun before is gone. Like even just, like you said, traversing the city, like the vents, being able to, come up right on top of a building and stuff like that. Like that's.
Have you gotten any more powers yet? Are you still on smoke or?
Yeah, I'm still on smoke.
Oh my God, Sean! This game is gonna fucking blow your mind.
Yeah.
It is so good. The smoke is a joke. Catchphrase this game, because once you get the other ones, you don't go back to smoke unless they make you. Trust me. The other ones are so good.
I like smoke.
What I love is, I mean, what games do I give credit for this for? Definitely Rayman Legends that we'll talk about. But just being creative in the source of things. I find with a superhero game, it's always the same stuff. And just like the way platformers. There's always a snow level. There's a fire level. There's a desert level. And it feels like powers are always fire and ice and these same things over and over again. The power sources for this are unique and used to the game's credit to be visually awesome. I don't want to spoil. I just don't want to spoil them for Sean because they're that good. Maybe I'll put this question out there, Sean. Do you know or have any inkling as to? You start with smoke power, right?
Yeah.
If you were to guess, what powers do you think you get in the game? And maybe I spoiled that you get more powers.
No, that's not a spoiler.
Okay, well, what powers do you think you get based on what you've played in the game? I will tell you this: you should, if you were astute. I wasn't. I think you would be able to predict what powers you get if you were looking at the world.
Rock powers?
No.
Okay. I got no idea. I mean, I would have just expected the usual fire, ice, whatever else, water.
No, it's so good. I want to tell you, but I can't.
All right.
And
well,
I can't wait for you to experience. I'll tell you this, Sean. When I started playing Infamous last night, I played for, like I said, about 2 hours. I played again for 2 hours today, and I already had the second power. So you got to step your game up, son. That's all I gotta say.
Well, I've played, I would say, 4 to 5 hours. So I must be right on the edge of getting the next one. But okay. I'm also at a section now where it's kind of opened up to more open world type stuff. And I have to say, a lot of times when I get to that point in open world type games where I'm presented with all this stuff I can do, I just say, no thanks, and turn it off because it's too much. But in this one, I was just running around, and at every corner there was something fun to do, and I was still totally engaged. So clearly, I think they've done something right there.
Well, for me, after playing and 100%ing Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, those side missions and the game itself got so repetitive. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It could have been so much shorter, and missions where I'm following people are just boring, and I've done it in every Assassin's Creed game. Give me something new. And the stuff I'm sure you've done, the graffiti stuff, Sean, where you flip the controller and shake it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of goofy, but at least it's something different. It's your choice whether you want to do them all or not, but I mean, at least it's a different idea for a side mission. It's kind of barely a quick time event that I could see people getting sick of, but I kind of liked it. And just the camera missions, I don't know, they're just, nothing ever takes too long, and I know exactly what I'm in for when I start a mission, and if I want to, I can, and if I don't, I don't have to. And I don't know. I am shocked by how bad the reviews are in this game, like 8.7s, and the Metacritic's at 80, and it doesn't make sense to me at all. To me, this is finally a next-gen game. It feels next-gen. I don't know if they're just leaving this room of, well, it's next-gen, but we can't say it's the best next-gen's going to get, so we can't give really high reviews.
I mean, I just find it interesting to compare it to Titanfall, which, again, I didn't play a ton of Titanfall, and, I'm probably not going to gravitate towards that anyway, but to me, Infamous just feels like infinitely more next-gen than Titanfall did.
Yeah, and the effects are so good, and how I'm talking about these different powers you get, and how awesome they are in terms of traversal. They picked the coolest ideas visually, too. Smoke is just like scraping the bottom of the barrel visually compared to the next two, I think.
Interesting.
And it's a showcase for their effects, which are fantastic.
Cool.
Oh, Sean, I want to ruin it for you.
All right, well...
And to that effect, the idea of how often you get powers, how quickly you get them, how it expands, and then how that incorporates in a way I didn't see coming in the final boss fight was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder if... it seems like they could have padded out the game more, because I agree, it's like every even from the amount I've played, pretty much every step of the way, it's a new power, a new power, a new power. And they could have stretched that out so you get a new power and then you have to use it for a while, then you get a new power. But, like, would that have made reviews higher? That seems so bizarre to me. Like,
I don't know. I so respect the fact that they opted to do less. When they have put so much in the game and could have added 100 side missions, and even comparing it to the other Infamous games where there's 300 blast shards in this world that you're just scouring, to dial everything back and just make it fun and well paced, and you want to do everything in the game rather than feeling like it's a chore to do everything in the game. That's when I want to get 100%, and by the end of it I'm like, I want to play and get 100% again, only do it in an evil way this time. If you can do that, that is amazing design. And I don't understand the so reception to this game. To me, it's finally a good reason to buy a next-gen console.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting. You've got my interest peaked here, Frank.
I don't know. I haven't read that many reviews. I just read a few synopsis and bullet points about what's good and bad about them, and I don't know. Someone was telling me that one of the big who was it? Why can't I remember who told me this? But one of the complaints in it is, my buddy Brand, that's in the reviews. It's the puddles don't splash when they step in them and stuff like that. Like, these expectations for next gen, and I mean, who gives a fuck about stuff like that? I just want the game to be fun and look amazing, and it does.
Yeah, it looks like it's an 80 on Metacritic right now, which does seem pretty low.
Well, yeah, what else was on there that I'm like, this is that much higher? I don't know. It's fucking stupid, really.
All right, well, why don't we go around the table and talk about other stuff we've been playing. So, Huck City, what do you got for us?
Well, why don't we start with Bioshock Infinite?
Yes.
I beat it. Surprise, surprise. And, yeah, I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. The first half was definitely really enjoyable. And then I got Bioshocked and started having to backtrack everywhere. When they start doing the missions where it's like, go to Comstock's house. Oh, you reach this front door, but you can't get in. Now you got to go all the way across the world to some other place that means nothing and find one little key and then, spend your time there and then come right back and then, it's locked again, go somewhere else. That kind of shit turns me off so much from this game. But
I don't remember there being that much backtracking in it.
It was just in the last, 1/3 of the game. That's where I noticed it the most. And maybe just because I was at the point where I was trying to power through the game to finish it for this show, that maybe it stuck with me a little more. But, yeah, I also found that I was doing stuff but not really understanding why I was doing it and not really understanding how the characters knew to do it. So there's a whole bunch of plot points that were really driven on random chance occurrences just happened to happen at the right moment. Like, we fought all our way to the airship and then, yes, let's go, we're going, this is so awesome. Then we perfectly get attacked by that bird and now I'm falling and now I gotta find Elizabeth again. And then I have to do this whole fucking run of missions to get guns for someone that I have no idea why you know where the guns are, why you know where this person is, why you even know who this person is at all. There's just a lot of loose ends I wasn't really understanding. Maybe it's explained somehow, but I missed it. And it was just you're just kind of thrown in the fire. And as far as I think why I'm disappointed in it is because these Bioshock games seem to be praised for their storytelling. And for me, I'm at a loss to see how this is good storytelling. if you just drop me into a random town because you want to extend the game, and then you make me go run guns for some random person for no reason, I don't understand why this is like a great plot point in a game. And so that was like, I mean, the gameplay was fine. It was fun. I liked fighting.
Let's be real here, Huxley. The storytelling of Bioshock is, I would say, first and foremost, creating a unique world.
Yeah, I agree. They do that, sure.
Secondly, in Infinite, the story of Elizabeth.
Okay.
And thirdly, the ending, which is amazing, and justifies the title Bioshock Infinite, which is an accomplishment in its own right.
Yeah, okay. Sure, those are all valid points, but I mean,
getting hung up on a plot point about gun running, like, what's the big deal?
No, but I mean, it was like, it just seems so, it seemed like it's just thrown in there just to make the game not 5 minutes long. It's like, you know, like, the game could be over if you just did that first part where you save Elizabeth and then get in the airship and then just go. But then they force you down this whole path of run these guns and go into Finkel's manufacturing or something. Fink? Like, why are you going there? I don't know. It's just like the only place left in the world to go in this area, so let's go there next. And somehow
I'm so far removed from the game. I think there's a counterpoint to these, but I can't remember what it is.
Well, I'm glad you don't remember, because this makes me right. Anyways, there's just like, I don't know, there's a lot of spots like that where I just didn't understand why I was going places and why it was going to lead me back to where I needed to go. So I don't know. I found also, I almost felt there was too much stuff to collect. I was spending almost all my time searching every nook and cranny to find all the money scattered around the world, picking up all the food and crap that was scattered around, trying to find, I mean, I liked trying to find all the locked doors and things like that. That was pretty fun. But by the end of the game, I was just kind of overwhelmed. And once I had sort of reached that plateau of having purchased every upgrade and power upgrade I felt I needed or wanted, and I was able to just start kind of running through the game without worrying about picking anything up, I enjoyed the game a lot more again. Because I was actually just playing the game, not doing this big hunt and peck search throughout every level. I understand why they do that. I mean, it makes you search through the corners of the world, and you get to see all the little bullshit they put in. Find all those stupid voice recorders. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of torn on this game because I did like the ending a lot. I thought it was kind of neat. I'm a little confused by it. I was probably completely exhausted when I played through it, so I probably missed like 1,000 points I should have gotten. But I thought I figured out some sort of plot hole in it, but I can't remember what it is right now, so it's useless to me, about how it would be impossible for the big twist guy to actually be touching the girl or something like that. I thought he met himself or something like that, which I don't know how that would work. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was good.
Were you a fan of the first two Bioshock games?
I didn't play Bioshock 2, and I hated Bioshock 1.
Hated it? Wow.
Yeah, because they make you do that stupid backtracking stuff where you cross an entire level only to get to a locked door where they tell you, hey, you need the key to this door. By the way, it's all the way at the other end of the level, and then you got to go all the way back through. And that kind of shit pisses me off.
I don't mind backtracking. It just, if the game's fun, then you enjoy going back through it. But, I mean, if it's just literally just walking, then that sucks.
Well, it was walking with stupid enemies in the way. But I don't know. I thought in Infinite, they had a good variety of enemies, of enemy types. I enjoyed was it the Patriots? I enjoyed the, what are the guys with the hearts in them, whatever they're called.
Heart attacks?
Sure, heart attack guys. The normal, like, policemen guys were fine. I remember being a little kind of taken aback. The first, like, intro scene, you're walking and you don't have your gun or anything yet. You're doing all this, like, nice, pleasant walking around this town. And then I remember you go up to like the first cops you kill and I hit the melee button or whatever. Maybe you do that. You have to do that, and the guy's head just like explodes right in front of you. And I remember just being like kind of blown back that you go from this perfectly kind of nice world, and then all of a sudden it just becomes this video game of blood and guts. And I was kind of taken back that it went to that extreme right away as like your first violent encounter.
That's what the game's all about, man.
I guess
just
so.
The niceties that hide the truth, the ugly truth.
Yeah. So I don't know. I liked it. I thought it looked amazing. I thought it looked pretty. A lot of good effects. I'm torn. I don't know. I'd probably give it like a 3 out of 4 probably. But at the same time, I wouldn't say I loved it. It definitely wouldn't be on any sort of top 10 for me. But the shooting mechanics are all good. I liked the powers. I didn't play around with too many of the powers, but I kind of found the one or two I liked and then stuck with those. And they do a lot of good things, but they do a lot of things that frustrate me also. So that's really the main points I have to make about Bioshock.
So Huck City, I hate to put you on the spot here.
Do it.
I know you're not necessarily in control of design. Am I going to get a no backtracking guarantee from Citizens of Earth?
Probably not.
Interesting.
But what I do guarantee is you won't cross the entire world only to reach a locked door and say, sorry, you got to go all the way back. The key's in your office back of your home. That's what I can guarantee you won't see.
Okay, we'll see.
Sorry, you forgot your car keys at home. Go home.
Well, I mean, I don't think... strangely, when Bioshock Infinite first came out, it seemed to me like there was a ton of praise. But by the end of the year, it felt like it had kind of subsided, and it wasn't even on a lot of top
No, I don't think
lists.
it was, yeah.
So I'm not sure what happened there, if sort of just the first people that played it just loved it, and then kind of more people played it and evened out, or what, but... Yeah, I don't know.
I do think that they did a good job of doing a lot of really subtle storytelling. Like, I think in a lot of previews you see Elizabeth has like that thimble or whatever on her pinky finger. And they explain that in the end really well. And I think they never explicitly state that anywhere, though. As you're going along, you just kind of visually notice it, which I thought was a nice touch that they do stuff like that. And even with just like the posters scattered around the world, and I don't know, I never looked at any of those, what are those things you stick your eyes in? Like the telescopes and all that. Anyways, there's like other storytelling devices that I didn't really dive into, but they do a lot of that stuff really well. But I don't think it really elevated the game to greatness for me.
All right. Well, for people who say I never beat games, I beat a couple of games. I actually beat The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds.
Oh.
Which, was
Your
my number
game.
one of the year, so I thought that I probably should, but I actually wanted to keep playing it and couldn't put it down, quite honestly. And I just think that the design... The level design for all the temples is amazing. Like nobody does. Like Nintendo is so good at giving you a mechanic or a power or something. They teach you it, and then they twist it, and then they teach you something else, and then they twist it again, and they use it in a way you didn't expect. And like this game is such a great example of that. The only real complaints I have. I thought they were going to do something a little more with the two worlds. Like, I remember in A Link to the Past, there being some elements of, you do something in the past and it affects the future. I don't think they did too much with that, but I remember there being some stuff like that. And in this, it was literally just two versions of the same world. One's kind of dark and one's kind of light. And in order to get from one place on the map to the other, you would have to kind of switch over to the other world, move over, and then switch back. And that was it. Like, there was no other interesting connections, or doing something in one world didn't affect the other really, or anything like that. So I was a little disappointed there, but overall thought it was great. I don't know, how far did you get in it, Frank? You haven't finished it, right?
No, I think I'm on where you get all the other 5 temples and you can kind of approach them in any order.
Right.
I didn't get past that.
Well, you might want to give it a look.
Well, you know what? Another game I'm talking about, I'll reference this, but we're getting into sports playoffs here, Sean.
Okay.
Which means a 2 TV setup. Or at least 1 TV and 1 portable system where I watch sports and play a game at the same time.
Right.
And I do that every night and every day on the weekends. So maybe.
So we're looking at some Zelda playing, maybe a little Vita.
Yeah. But there's another game, maybe I'll just say it right now, that I started that I think I might use for the next month at least and get my money's worth anyway, which is Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn.
Oh, boy.
I had bought this for PS3 and never opened it because Dax was playing it and loved it, and another friend of mine really enjoyed it. So I bought it and, like I said, never played it. So then I saw you could use your PS3 disc or registered version and get a free digital version of the PS4. You could convert to PS4
for free.
And yeah.
Wow.
After you do that, your PS3 version's useless essentially. If you want to play,
well, it's useless to you anyways.
Yeah, so it was perfect. So I put it in, and I got my free month out of it as well, and I got to play it before everyone else, which was today, for 3 days. Amazing. And I really like it. I don't know. I thought it was pretty fun, and I mean, I'm not a huge MMO guy. I've played a bit of Warcraft, more for the artwork, and just I found that right now it's early, but I'm finding this game less intimidating than Warcraft. With all the versions of Warcraft that have happened, I feel like once the Cataclysm thing happened, the whole thing changed, and I'll never get to do the stuff the people that first played the game did, and it's just like so much has happened in this game that I feel like, what is the point in catching up now? I just kind of like the artwork and thought it was cool from that perspective. But Final Fantasy, I don't get that feeling, and I kind of want to play it more, and the combat's fun. The graphics are really cool. So far, for a menu system on a console, it's working pretty well, and it's pretty fast. So, I don't know. I've only played for probably 4 or 5 hours, but I liked it.
So it is MMO, like straight up, like yes. Warcraft? Like there's no offline stuff? There's no...
No. Extremely similar to World of Warcraft.
And you have to like party up with other people. You can't do a lot of solo campaign type stuff.
I have only done solo so far, so...
Oh, okay. Cool.
And so far it hasn't been a problem, but it wasn't in Warcraft at first, and then you just get to a point where you feel you need 10 people to play with, and maybe I'll hit that point with this game, but so far I like it.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Me?
Yeah. What do you got, Huck City?
So I went on a couple benders this past break.
Whoa.
One of those benders was a Vita bender.
Nice. And
took advantage of the old PS Plus account. So I played a little bit of Lone Survivor, which was free on PS Plus.
Right.
And by a little, I mean a very little. And I don't know, I was enjoying what I was playing, but I was also very confused by what was going on. I don't know if either of you guys have touched this game.
I think I downloaded it. I don't think I've played it.
So there's, I don't know, I believe it's supposed to be survival horror esque, but it's a 2D sprite based game,
right?
Side scrolling. Well, I guess not side scrolling, kind of open world, kind of, I guess. But I didn't really get the horror aspect, but it was definitely weird. and I didn't really know what was going on. Maybe the horror comes later. I know I really didn't play that much, but they do little things to sort of get you thinking about things longer term. So I believe you open a fridge and there's like some spoiled meat and you can choose to eat it or not. So you kind of have to weigh your options. Like, will this actually have a long-term effect? And then if you go to bed, it actually keeps a track of how many days have gone by. So it also kind of implies there's some sort of timing thing you need to keep in mind. I might go back to it, but it didn't really totally grab me. The other game I played quickly, I don't know how far in I got, but I think I got to about the 6th chapter or so, was Thomas Was Alone, which is a small indie game, puzzle game, really about moving blocks over obstacles. That's really the quick synopsis of that game. And I was enjoying it. It has this like British narrator over top, which was pretty funny. And I was enjoying it. It was good. I played a little bit, but then I got stolen by my real investment in my Vita bender, and that was Uncharted Golden Abyss. And this game is incredible, and I think that the guys who did it, I can't remember what company it was, but they definitely lived up to the Uncharted franchise mechanics and everything. They nailed it.
Yeah, it wasn't Naughty Dog.
No, it was someone else. I probably recognize it when you say it, but I know some people were complaining about, I think maybe Frank,
it says SCE Bend Studio.
Oh, Bend. Yeah, I think
with development overseen by Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
It's the Bender.
That's the Bender. The Bender. Right, yeah, perfect. So there wasn't too much about this game I found frustrating. I did find they have this bounce mechanic when you go over logs. Frank, you played through this, right? Or both of you guys played through this?
I played a good amount of it.
I played the first few chapters or something like that.
Okay. So they have this log balance mechanic where you have to use the gyroscope in the Vita to balance yourself so you don't fall off.
Right.
And they way overuse this to the point where every log I came across, I was just like, please don't make me do that stupid balance thing. And luckily near the end of the game, they start to taper it off where they don't make you do it every time. But I think when that happens in a game, you know that mechanic's been overplayed a little too much when you actually don't want to do, you're afraid that it'll come up.
Yeah, they definitely, like, it was kind of, because it was a launch title, there's sort of tech demo elements to the game where they're showing off the touch screen and you can do the scratch. The
rubbings.
The rubbings of the.
The rubbings I actually didn't get as frustrated by. I'm sure some people got annoyed by it, but I didn't. I don't think I found all of them that you could, which was one detriment to this game. I almost felt there was too much stuff to find. Because in the original Uncharted games, there's 100 collectibles, I think, in each game or so?
I think so, yeah.
In this game, there has to be 300 or more. I mean, there's collectibles, there's rubbings, there's tons of stuff to find and do, but it's just too much. It's too much to the point where I'm searching around trying to find them, and I pick up something and it's like 2 of 20 or 2 of 40, but then you go to a new level and it restarts with all new things. I was thinking it was more like Uncharted 1 to 3 where it's 100 across the whole game and that's it. I thought, oh, it's just 40, but actually it's like 40 per major area kind of thing. Right. And then there's these rubbings.
And then on top of it, the way they split up the collectibles, they're set up in groups in these kind of journal pages.
Yeah.
And they all come from different levels, and to complete your set, they're coming from all over the place.
Yeah, and you need like 4 rubbings to make one real collectible item. So you need to basically find, almost like probably 20 times 4 things of those. So there's just too much in that regard. But I think they nailed the shooting, which I thought was going to be a little bit of a touchy thing with that right thumbstick on the Vita. But I actually found it was pretty reasonable once I got used to it after maybe 1 or 2 levels.
Yeah.
They also did a really good balance of platforming and the combat, just like every other Uncharted game. I thought maybe because it wasn't by Naughty Dog, that might suffer. They might way too heavy on the combat, but they did a really good job setting up all the set pieces and platforming elements, and yeah, just a really good game. Really impressed. I'm sure it's got a good Metacritic, but I was really impressed with it.
Well, especially for a launch title. Again, that was one of the really smart things they did when they launched the Vita, is they actually had, a brand new Uncharted game like that. That was the thing that sold me right off the bat. And when you look at the launch titles that were there for PS4 and Xbox One, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so the other thing I finished, which I guess technically I didn't finish because there's only one part out so far, is Broken Age, which is the Double Fine adventure game, which started the whole Kickstarter craze for a lot of people, and it was good. I mean, it's interesting because I had certain expectations. Obviously, it being a Tim Schafer adventure game, point and click adventure game, and on the one hand, I wanted the nostalgia, and I wanted it to feel like Monkey Island, Maniac Mansion, all these other games that I loved as a kid. And on the other hand, I expected and kind of wanted him to have sort of the next evolution of a point-and-click adventure game. And it kind of isn't really either of those. The one thing I will say is the art style is amazing. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the videos or screenshots.
Yeah, it looks good.
It has this real painterly quality to it, and yet everything animates like it feels like you're watching like an animated movie, basically.
I heard it looks 2D, but then you'll hit cases where the sprites kind of turn sideways, and you can tell they're rendered in 3D, but they just are mostly a flat looking image.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing that's kind of interesting about it as well is there's two parallel stories, one about a young boy and one about a young girl, and one's in kind of a sci-fi futuristic world, and the other one's in sort of a fantasy fairy tale kind of world. And you can jump back and forth between either of them whenever you want, which is kind of nice just because you kind of get stuck in these games. And that's always been one of the problems with point and click adventure games, is when you get stuck, well, what can you do? You're literally kind of stuck, and you can't just run around and kill enemies for fun or anything like that. If you cannot figure out that next puzzle, you're done. So at least with this, you can jump over and play a different storyline for a bit and then come back and try again. But I guess what we will find out in part 2 is sort of how these two stories interconnect. There's sort of it wraps up with a hint at that, but I'm curious to see where it goes next. But the thing I would say that maybe is a bit of a disappointment is it wasn't that funny. I mean, it felt like, even though it's a story that I think appeals to all ages, it felt like an attempt to tell a little bit more of a mature story, I would say. And there's clearly some interesting themes, like both of these kids are in these worlds that they have all these rules that they have to follow, and they're trying to break out of that. And I don't know. I mean, I think it's an impressive achievement, just maybe not quite as fun or entertaining as I had hoped. But overall, the art was the thing that really stuck with me from it. So
still looking forward to part 2, though.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was only maybe 4 or 5 hours for part 1, so perfect length for me, and I'm ready for part 2. Frank?
Cool. Quickly, before I forget, there's 2 things I didn't say that were bad about Infamous.
Okay.
One is the launching mechanic for smoke power on the vents when you stand on top of the vents.
Yeah.
It's very finicky, and you almost are they don't explain it well. Now I know you have to almost dash into it and up rather than stand on it and press circle.
I was really confused at one point when you're climbing the Space Needle, I could not figure out what the hell I was supposed to do.
And it really comes into play a lot during the end of the game, and I was getting frustrated, but I think I got the hang of it now on my second playthrough. And second would be the ending credits song, which is a cover of Heart-Shaped Box, which is absolutely awful.
Nice.
And I'll say, I beat Tomb Raider Definitive Edition again on PS4 and enjoyed it. I briefly entered the world of Skylanders Swap Force when it was on sale.
Boy.
And bought the starter kit. Have yet to buy any figures.
That's just opening up a whole new addiction for Frank.
I'm not even that interested. I was actually surprised at how fun the game is, and it's very colorful and wacky, and I don't know. I didn't play it a lot, but I didn't dislike what I played. It was better than I expected, so that was a pleasant surprise. I kind of understand where the appeal would be for kids, and Sean, maybe Kieran will be a big Swap Force fan one day.
One can hope.
I know my nephews are really into it.
Yeah.
I beat the single player for Call of Duty Ghosts, which I really enjoyed. I tried to play it on veteran and instantly wanted to shoot myself. I forgot how annoying those games are on veteran, and I was reading and this is actually one of the easier games on veteran.
The AI shoot you through the wall?
I was not finding that. I was snapping, so I've not ventured back into that game. But it was a nice, short, fun single-player campaign with some wow moments. I think these games within our community kind of get shit on. That they're kind of everything that's wrong with games in a way, and everyone's just waiting for the next Call of Duty. But I've said it before, I'll say it again. The multiplayer is really good, and although brief, the single-player campaigns are impressive, and they do tend to put a lot of stuff into them, and they look good.
Okay, Huck City.
Okay, so my second little bender I went on was a last gen bender, I think. So PS2?
I put
PS2. I played halfway through Onimusha 3 Demon Siege. And let me tell you, this game is Dark Souls. This is Dark Souls, this game.
Really?
Yeah. They have the same... So, Dark Souls has definitely refined the sort of battle mechanics, whereas this is more of a button mash battle mechanic thing. But this game, you collect souls, you upgrade with your souls. There's not sort of like the life and death sort of aspect of it, where if you die, you go back and collect your souls. But as far as the sort of combat to gain souls, one-on-one combat with enemies where you have to learn their style and read their style to block them and things, that's all there. Using your moves in different ways to beat those enemies is there also. I was just really surprised at I really picked up this game just because I always wanted to play it, or picked it back up, I should say, and I was really surprised at how similar it was to playing Dark Souls. So if anyone still has their PS2 lying around, wants to play a game like Dark Souls, it's a little less refined, pick up Onimusha 3.
But I think a lot of people would say what makes Dark Souls is the fact that you die a lot, and it's replaying stuff and the frustration of death and learning from death, and I don't know if that's necessarily represented in...
Yeah, sorry, I guess I should say that Dark Souls is definitely rooted in this game. I wouldn't say they're the same, but I can see where Dark Souls took this game as an influence when they were making the design.
Yeah, I was just trying to look up to see if any key people worked on that game previously, but I couldn't see anything.
No, so. Okay.
I'll say this, Onimusha 1, one of my favorite games ever. I think I beat that game 6 times.
Oh, yeah?
So good. Oh, I love Onimusha 1.
Yeah, this one was good. It's got Jean Reno in it.
Nice.
Pretty good, yep. And the other kind of, I guess it's not last gen, but it was Xbox 360. As people may know, it was just March, and March means March Madness, which means I threw in my college hoops 2K8 and played a few rounds, and it was still amazing.
Is this the last college basketball
Yep.
game ever to be released?
I will never get rid of my Xbox 360 sheerly because I had this game.
I remember loving NCAA basketball for the N64.
Oh yeah, I believe it. This
good.
one is awesome. And I don't know if I have 2 more games I played, but go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I'll mention Lego Marvel Superheroes. I don't know if we talked about this last show at all.
I beat this as well, Sean.
Well, I sure didn't beat it, but I played a bit of it and was actually enjoying it quite a bit. I mean, I think my problem was I played some of the Lego Star Wars games, and then for a long time I just kind of felt like, okay, I've played the Lego games, I don't need to play anymore, and they just kept putting out more and more, and I always kind of thought, I know that experience, okay, I don't need to play anymore, but had a hankering for, kind of a superhero game like this with, the option for co-op and whatnot, and it actually, I think, is kind of comparable to the Marvel Ultimate Alliance game and the X-Men Legends games. Like, it obviously doesn't have the RPG elements, but it feels pretty similar, and I think in terms of capturing all these different superheroes and their different powers, they did a really good job on that. So, like, everybody kind of feels different. Certain characters play sort of similar to each other, but everybody has their strengths and weaknesses and whatnot, and it works really well. However, I know when we played it at Frank's place, when was this? Like around Christmas or something?
Yeah, the original
the first
Twitch
live stream we did. I know there was some joking about the fact that I wasn't very good at figuring out what to do in this game. I gotta say, for a series that has been around as long as it is and is targeted at kids, they really don't do a very good job at holding your hand through certain things. Like, every level, I would always come across something where I would be stuck for 10 minutes wandering around trying to figure out what the next thing I needed to do was. And it can't be just me. Like,
you just need to get your spectacles checked then.
You got
I would agree with you, Sean. Even I would say some design scripting is just broken in the game.
Yeah.
There was side missions where I was just, I'm doing this right. Why isn't this working? You have to do it exactly the way they want you to. I mean, this game is a Metacritic of 90. Which, saying that this game
really?
is
that high?
better than, well, I like it and stuff, but to say that it's that much better than Infamous Second Son is a joke to me. I mean, there's a lot to do. If that's what you judge a game being good by, fine. But, I mean, there's a charm to it. The mechanics, you want to talk about repetitive mechanics. Why do these games never get knocked for that? Like, every level is reskinning the same level, essentially. It's all the same. And I don't know, I like them in a bit, but I have not had the urge to 100% this game. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I played it for a while and was into it for a week or two, and then kind of lost interest. And I probably will go back to it again at some point. But it's good, and I think it is the fact that just the sheer number of characters they have keeps giving you something new to do. But yeah, the games do get repetitive, and that is kind of one of the reasons why it had been so long since I played a Lego game. So yeah, I don't know. I understand the appeal, but I think there's some problems here that I agree with you, Frank. Maybe a little overrated in terms of the actual review scores.
Is it fair to say, Sean, that Lego games get a free pass?
It does feel like that a little bit.
Although lately the backlash has happened. The Lego Movie game and Lego Hobbit, taking some punches, gotta say.
Yeah, I haven't checked the reviews for the Hobbit one, so that's
I don't know
interesting.
why. I feel very strongly compelled to at some point watch the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy and play that Lego game again.
Yeah?
I just feel it's the closest I'm ever going to get to a Lone Ranger Lego game. I gotta make it happen.
That's true, yeah.
The Gore Verbinski Lego game. Gotta get on it.
What else would you like to see a Lego game? Like, what other franchise should they do?
Well, it's ironic that there are Lone Ranger Lego play kits.
Yeah, that's true.
What would be a good one? I mean, it has nothing to do with Lego at this point, obviously. It's
No.
how can you reskin a movie or characters?
Well, you know what I want to see?
No, I don't.
Lego The Matrix.
That is good. That is good.
It would be pretty awesome.
Do they have a Lego the movie, the game?
Yeah, they do, actually.
Do they?
Yeah.
You know what would be good? Spaceballs, the Lego game.
That's DLC for sure.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I would love that. I think I might have thought of that before. Good call. And,
Also, Star Trek. Just got to point out that that's an obvious one.
what about Sean?
Yes. You're looking at your DVD shelf right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some inspiration, but I'm surprised there's no mention of a Dark Knight.
Well, they did do Lego Batman and Lego Batman.
Recreating the Dark Knight trilogy.
That's true. That would be interesting.
Tarantino? Lego?
Might be a bit of a conflict of...
Kill Bill Lego.
I think it would be amazing, to be honest.
Kill Lego Bill.
Yeah.
All the movies have violence, and I think you could do a cool Tarantino Lego game. I'll go on the record right now with that.
Okay.
What else we got here?
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that'd be good. Good call. Adam Sandler Lego game. What else?
Okay, we're done with the Lego games.
You know what they should do?
Moving on.
They should do a video game Lego game. So it's like Lego take on popular
Mario.
video game franchises and characters.
What about this, Sean? Cornetto trilogy.
I'm in.
There you go. With Scott Pilgrim bonus DLC. I don't know. Born Lego?
Yeah,
That's my jam.
sure.
Oh, Alien.
Oh,
Alien's got to be the one.
that's got to happen.
And then eventually Terminator.
Yep. Man, there's this franchise could go on forever.
Kind of like this conversation.
Just wait till there's a full series of Avatar. You know that's coming down the Lego pipeline.
Oh yeah. All right, Huck City, you're dying to move on to something else.
Yes. So I played Splinter Cell Blacklist.
Okay.
And have you guys both played this or no?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played the first few levels and liked it. I hear it's kind of short, so I almost just and I know people that worked on it. I want to find a day and just play it the whole way through because those stories can be a little complex with the political stuff, and I kind of just want to have a chance to beat it in one sitting.
Yeah, it was short, but it was longer, I think, for me than most reviewers are saying. I think some reviewers are saying like 6 to 8 hours. I think it took me a little longer, like 10 to 12. And I think it's because what they did is they really captured what I would consider to be like the main Splinter Cell level design philosophy, which is make it a small level with a bunch of different ways to do it. And your AI patterns are basically the same, and you have to kind of figure out the maze. So you'll die a lot, but once you figure it out, you kind of like feel like you earned it. And they really capture that well, especially the last level is quite a bit larger than any other level they've done, but it's really rewarding once you figure it out. They also have no maps, so you really have to memorize what you were doing. So that can be frustrating, but I feel like the mechanics in this game are solid enough that you're not dying because it's being cheap. You're dying because you made a mistake, which is always very, very good. The stealth aspects are really good. I do miss the old Sam Fisher voice, though. I noticed it right away.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a detriment to me, but I got over it.
Sorry, Huck. Also, to add to that, we didn't mention, because it was tough to hear when we were playing, the change of voice in Solid Snake to Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which I also found to be quite jarring.
Yeah, yeah. There was one really blatant design problem I had in this game. There's one level right at the end of like a really long stretch with no checkpoint. They put a new enemy, and they didn't really explain to you how to beat this new enemy, so I ended up dying there quite a bit because I didn't really capture, I guess, the tutorial or whatever that they were trying to teach me. And then eventually I just found a way where I could actually get above him, and then I just shot him in the head from above instead of actually trying to like sneak up on him and fight him that way. So I don't know if that was by design, but the way to get back to that guy took me a few tries that were a little more frustrating to get around, and that was more because you had to wait. Any time in a Splinter Cell game where you kind of have to like wait a long time for the guards to go the proper way, I find is a little frustrating. But they did a pretty good job avoiding that in this game. Usually you could get around. I found that the facial expressions, kind of like how you guys were talking about in Infamous, I'm sure this game doesn't compare to that, but I found they were really good in this game compared to a lot of other kind of PS3 titles. Let's see what else we got here. At the end of the game, they actually did something I was not expecting. It actually threw me for a loop. And they actually have you do a couple levels as your partner. But those partner levels are actually first-person shooters. So you play in the Splinter Cell as a first-person shooter game now, which was a little jarring at first, but I like that they did that actually in retrospect, just because it makes you feel like Sam Fisher and this other guy are two very distinct types of people.
Well, is that also incorporating the Mercs and Spies multiplayer game into the campaign then? Is that what that is?
I don't know I didn't play that mode, so I'm not sure, and I don't know what that is, but I don't think it's incorporating that. This is like part of the story where... Okay.
But, like, Frank, have you played that before, the multiplayer mode? I thought it was
never
like...
played it on original Xbox.
I could have sworn it was like, one side is like first person and then the other side is third person. Or I could be wrong, but...
Maybe. Yeah, it could be right. That might be it. But, yeah, I thought it was a nice little, like, fresh take right near the end of the game. Maybe right when the stealth mechanics were getting a little old for people. It was kind of a nice change of pace.
But one thing about that, actually, because I know, like, I think sometimes that's cool. Like, usually you get to the end of a game and you want it to be different, unique, something memorable. But there's other games where, you get to the end and they totally change the entire mechanic on you, and it's frustrating as hell. Like, I'm trying to think of examples. I feel like maybe the first God of War was like that. I don't remember exactly what that boss fight was, but I just remember, like, it's something where you've learned the whole game to do a certain thing, and instead of sort of taking that and using it in a cool way, it's like, okay, we're ripping all that stuff away from you, and now you have to do this other thing instead. And I don't like when they do that.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead, Frank.
Almost all the God of War bosses are like that. Definitely. Are you thinking in the first one when you fight the huge version of Ares and...
Maybe. It's been a while. I don't remember.
Still kind of have the parry mechanic there, but that's definitely a good point. There are a few bosses like that. I wish I could think of them off the top of my head.
Well, I remember is it God of War 3, the Hydra boss? Like, the first big boss you find, I remember that boss took me a while because I was trying to figure out how to actually beat him. But, sometimes boss fights like that, where there's sort of a puzzle mechanic to it, are really enjoyable. This game, though, it wasn't frustrating, but it was just more jarring because you've become conditioned to playing a third-person stealth game, and then all of a sudden you're playing a first-person shooter.
Right.
So the only thing that was frustrating about it was that there was the shift in mechanics that you weren't expecting. And, but I mean, mechanically, the gameplay was good. So that's really it. I really enjoyed the game. I'd probably give it a 3.5 out of 4. And the length wasn't really an issue for me. I thought they really nailed the Splinter Cell feel. A lot of the gadgets were really neat, and yeah, I just enjoyed it. It's good. Good job, Ubisoft Toronto.
Nice. Okay, I got one thing I'll talk about in detail, and then just a bunch of quick rapid-fire things. But got to bring back the mindfuck of the month.
Yes, of course, finally.
And this month, I played a game called Jazzpunk. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's only on Steam right now, I believe.
I've heard of it. I don't know anything about it.
The title tells you absolutely nothing about the game, which is kind of awesome in itself. But it's this really strange, kind of surreal game. It's a first-person perspective, but it's not a first-person shooter. It's more of, I guess, sort of an adventure game. And you play a spy, and you're kind of put into this Cold War kind of environment.
Oh my god, a mindfuck spy game? That's
but
indie? Could there be a more Guy game in the world?
Exactly. But it's the actual spy elements are not that... I mean, the music and stuff is there, and I like that a lot. But there's so many strange detours in this game. Like, you're walking around, and like people talk, and they all have like weird voices with like strange effects on them and stuff, and they're like sped up or slowed down. And like, you go into an alleyway, and I remember there's like a pizza box, and you open the pizza box, and you take a bite of the pizza, and it's like old pizza, and suddenly you like start hallucinating.
You're tripping on mushrooms?
And you go into this other level where you're fighting off zombie pizzas with like a pizza cutter and stuff. Like, just all these crazy asides, and it's just so random and hilarious that it's definitely a mindfuck, but it's just, I don't know, a lot of fun. And I can see a lot of people hating it, but I thought it was super creative. The opening credit sequence is awesome. And surprisingly enough, I think it was developed by a couple of guys in Toronto, although I believe it was published by Adult Swim Games, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, looks like it developed on Unity.
Yeah, and so Adult Swim Games, they've actually been doing some interesting indie stuff lately, publishing some cool stuff. So definitely recommend Jazzpunk. And I don't know if there's any plans for a console version, but I'm sure you can get it for cheap on Steam, the next Steam sale. So check it out. And I guess just to run through the other stuff I played, I'll mention Strider real quick on PS4. Haven't played as much as I had been wanting to, but Frank was nice enough to point out new Metroidvania game. So obviously I had to download it. I vaguely remember playing the original Strider, but this very clearly is taking Metroid elements and sort of applying it. And it's almost like Ninja Gaiden meets Metroid is sort of my initial impression. It's very fast-paced, but I was definitely liking it. Played Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. I think I'm about halfway through it. You guys both played this, right?
Yep. Yeah, I
just
beat
a
it.
taste. I felt like it was on a lot of top 10s, and thought that I needed to vet it for my top 10 list, and it got vetted. It's okay, but definitely not top 10 worthy.
Well, you might want to give it a little bit more of a chance. I don't know how much you played. I thought the first level or two were kind of slow, but then it really picks up, and I was really enjoying it. I think the main core mechanic of sort of controlling these two brothers, like one with each thumbstick, I think is really interesting. Like, I think you can do so much fun stuff just with having to coordinate the movement of two of them at the same time alone, but then they do other cool things as well, where like one has to move something while the other one runs through, and it's weird because it seems like it should be a game that was designed for co-op, but you can only play it single player. You have to play it with a single controller using one thumbstick for each character, and I think sticking to that is a pretty interesting idea. And I think thematically it's interesting because it's, I like games where the gameplay plays into the themes of the game, and the idea of these two brothers having to work together despite their differences and fighting with each other kind of is there. And I'll mention Tearaway, which I know you liked, Frank. Played, I think I'm past halfway now, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Not really that challenging of a game, and I did find that there was a few kind of glitchy, buggy things in the game, but it's just such a creative, interesting use of some of the Vita's capabilities, and just I like the idea that you can customize the world, and it's not necessarily required, but you can kind of have fun with that, and like you add a certain thing to a character in the game, and then that character shows up multiple times with that customization on him, and it's just fun.
Yeah, even making sounds and weird stuff like that. That's the coolest thing about that game. And yeah, it isn't much of a challenge. And I know, Sean, you are a stickler for a challenge. You like to be pushed to the limits when you play this game. So.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. If I'm complaining that it's a little too easy, then it's definitely pretty easy. But whatever. It's enjoyable. That's it for me.
Okay, I'll say I was waiting for the next gen remake or revision of Rayman Legends, which I've actually played a ton of on PS4, and I'm loving it. It is so good, even better than Rayman Origins in terms of just size of the levels, getting 100% on the levels, and the time trial stuff is more manageable, less frustrating. Sean, you will love the musical levels at the end of each section. I don't know if you've played it.
Oh, I do love them.
Yeah, when I played that, I'm like, Dwy guy would just be dripping right all over the place, and they're pretty amazing. So, awesome game. Need to get back into it shortly, and just love it, just like the first one. What a game! And I had said the cool new ideas in Infamous in terms of powers. I just love how they come up with wacky level designs, and it's even using food and just the weirdest stuff to have a unique feel to the game, which feels like platformers. The Mario games are getting better now with some really weird, diverse levels, but it just seemed for a while their platformers were recycling a lot of stuff over and over again. So I would actually give credit to Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for really pushing the boundaries of what levels are.
A classic game.
Yeah, I beat Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, 100% of that bitch. Really liked it. First time I've gone through an mostly just I like the pirate Caribbean environment and love the ship battles. Think those are amazing. Felt like a bit of a chore to complete the game, but definitely probably my favorite entry in the series so far, considering how much I played it and wanted to complete everything. So, killer game, just killer, and
all killer, a little bit of filler.
A lot of filler, still killer. I think would be the appropriate saying there. And Andrew, are we going to talk some South Park?
We sure are. That's my last game.
Me too. So let's talk some South Park.
Okay. Game of the year. That's all we need to say. So good. So funny. I mean, pretty big South Park fan. I think I've watched every episode up to season 12 or so. I think they're at like 17 seasons now. So I'm pretty versed in my South Park lore, let's say. And this game nails everything about South Park. The feel, the humor, like the animation style. It really just captures the show so well. And
well, I'd have to add, there's been intellectual property games before, licensed games. This is the first time where it's seamless. You are playing you are playing a version of South Park.
You're playing an episode. You're playing like a South Park movie, essentially.
Exactly, which is so impressive. It's almost insane. I haven't beat it. I need to play it more, but based on concept and execution, if the gameplay holds up, it would definitely be in the running for Game of the Year for me.
Yeah. How far are you? Where are you at?
Not far at all.
Oh, are you still on day one?
Maybe.
Okay. So there's like 3 days to it. So just
yeah, still on day one.
Okay, so this game, there's only one real flaw that I pointed out with this game, and it's that so your magic power in this game are your farts. And the tutorials for how to do these magic powers is so unintuitive that I probably wasted, I don't know, an hour to 2 hours being stuck in these tutorials because you can't pass the tutorial until you learn how to do this mechanic. And so usually what it is you hold down, I'm playing on Steam, so I don't know how it is on console, but you hold down the left mouse button and then you have to press like move left and right in some form or fashion until you hit this like magic sweet zone and then press the right mouse button. And near the end of the game I figured it out, but there's like this tiny little arrow that kind of points you in. So the tutorial tells you like how the arrow should move, and you're supposed to kind of mimic that, but it doesn't really explain what you need to press, because when it shows you press left and right, it just seems random. So you end up, if you mess it up and you press like right mouse button too soon, it just says, no, you were wrong. Like, watch me do it, blah, blah, blah. And then you have to watch the whole tutorial again. You get one attempt, and then you have to watch the whole tutorial again. And there's no sort of like get out of jail free card. And I don't know if you've got to any of these yet, Frank, but...
Well, even the first one, using your power, you have to rotate a thumbstick kind of thing.
Okay.
I think I'm assuming that most of the stuff you're talking about that's on the mouse is thumbstick motions on the controller, which is a little more intuitive, probably.
Yeah, couldn't you have just hooked up a controller to...
No, there's no controller support. I tried.
Really?
Yeah, which was a little surprising to me, actually, considering it is on consoles. I thought that would be an obvious thing.
That's crazy.
But yeah, there's no controller support, so I was a little disappointed that I was all gung-ho to use my DualShock 4.
Yeah.
But I had to use the mouse and keyboard, so that was a little tricky. But so that part was bad on Steam. Hopefully, it sounds like it's better on consoles. But I got stuck for hours, and there's only 4 of them. There's only 4 of those tutorials. The only other thing I could say is the battles are, your typical RPG battles, and I found that once I got a mechanic that worked well, I stuck with it, and then the battles became a little too easy. And I never really felt the need to branch out and try anything really different. Now, there's not really that many powers to try, but the ones you get are fun to use. You use them occasionally, but you kind of stick to your main ones and kind of go with that. I don't know, Frank, how have you been finding the battles?
I haven't done many, but what difficulty are you playing on?
Probably easy.
Yeah, I'm playing on the easiest possible one. Hey, it's not my fault your game doesn't require difficulty for trophies. I'm going to play the bare minimum.
Wow, that does not seem like your style, Frank. I'm surprised.
Oh, I only play...
No, he's playing on hard. That's what he's saying.
No. I play on easy because difficulty does not matter for these trophies.
Oh, I gotcha.
When it comes to my difficulty levels, it's strictly based on maximizing trophy gain.
So it's not about the respect of your peers?
Never.
Wow.
Never.
Okay.
It's trophy whoring. It's only trophy lore. That's all that matters.
The trophies in this one are ridiculous too. I don't know. I'm assuming Steam is the same as console, but most of them involve farting on people. That is like the whole.
Nice.
It's like 50% of the trophies.
No, it's not on consoles.
Oh no.
No.
Oh well then. Maybe I'm over exaggerating with the 50%, but
Maybe.
I can't believe some of the jokes they get away with in this game though. I think what's awesome about the South Park guys is from doing the show so long, they know exactly what they can get away with. So they reference stuff that I wouldn't think you'd be allowed to. So they like reference Taco Bell. You probably haven't got to that part, Frank, but they reference so much stuff from the show. Anal probing, like so much stuff. There's like, I don't know, near the end of the game, let's just say you have to go into someone's anal cavity.
I've heard about it.
And it is, I think what's great is that they put so many subtle things from the show in that if you didn't watch the show, it wouldn't have the same significance as someone who doesn't really watch the show. So for me, it was hilarious because I'm seeing all this stuff that has meaning to me. Whereas for other people, I think they'd see it and be like, oh, that's weird that that's in there. You can open up like all the kids' closets and see all these little memorabilia from previous shows. There's little hidden things like you can find Santa. You can go to Canada, and Canada's like this 8-bit world, which is hilarious. And you meet Terrence and Phillip, which are like the big Canadians in the show. And I don't know, they capture the show so perfectly. So this is 100% recommendation for anyone who's even remotely enjoys South Park to play. Pretty short game, like we said, like under 10 hours, I'd say. And I don't know if I would recommend it. I definitely wouldn't recommend it if you hate the show. You definitely will not enjoy this game because it's more show than game, in my opinion.
Well, I was going to ask, like, I mean, I'm not a fan of the show, let's put it that way, and I haven't seen much of the show, but I do like Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and I like RPGs that have a sense of humor, but, like, is it all inside jokes? Like, would I get anything out of it if I don't know all that background stuff?
You'll still get stuff out of it. There's still funny jokes. It's mostly, I'd say, fart humor, but, I mean, a lot of the like anal probe jokes you'll laugh at because it's more the delivery than the actual like backstory of where this joke came from. So I think someone like you would like the game, maybe not as much as someone like me, but I don't think it would be lost on you. I don't think you'd be disappointed with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also a question in terms of the actual battle mechanics. Like, I always prefer RPGs where you can have a little bit of interactivity within the battles. Is there any of that in this, or is it just strictly press a button, attack?
It's actually all of that.
Exactly that, yeah.
Yeah? Love it.
Yeah, basically it's... Did you ever play Super Mario RPG?
Yep.
So in that, you kind of choose your attack, and then you have to time it at the right time. They have that exact same mechanic, except actually... If you miss in this game, you do very, very little damage. Like if you don't time it right.
Right.
And they also have, I don't know how it works on consoles, but on the PC, you can do a left click or a right click, and it's essentially like a strong and weak attack kind of thing when you time it right. So there is a little variety there. They also have mechanics where there's sort of like a ranged attack and a melee attack, and then enemies will almost be able to do a counter move, so you have to take that strategy into account, where if they're set up to counter your ranged attack, you want to make sure you don't use that on them, kind of thing, and vice versa. So there is some strategy that goes into it, but I wouldn't call it really like deep or, really heavy on that strategy.
That sounds perfect for me, actually. I'm interested. Frank, what did you have any thoughts, additional thoughts?
I loved what I played so far. I actually think I might fire it up as soon as we're done here. Get back into it.
Nice.
Yeah, even the side quests are a lot of fun. They're all homages to the previous shows, but they're still funny, even if you don't know the context. Probably just seeing people crop up in shows would be... it'll be funny. Like, they have public figures that pop up that you would... There's more backstory if you watch the show, but if you don't, then it'd still be funny. There's also a lot of characters from the show that I thought they were going to have in the game that they actually didn't. But even so, there's one thing that I laugh at every time, and in the show, they have an episode where Jennifer Lopez is singing a song about tacos, and you go into stores and they're randomly playing the Jennifer Lopez taco song over the radio, and like Chef has music, so they play like South Park music within the game context, which is hilarious. Maybe more so for me because I find those episodes funny, but there's just so many little nods to the show that put all together make this an incredible game.
Nice. So sounds like big thumbs up from both of you guys then.
Oh yeah, huge. 4 out of 4 for me.
Nice.
Easy.
So you finished it then?
Yeah, I finished it a couple days ago.
Cool.
The only knock is I don't think I'll go back and play it anytime soon. I can see myself wanting to go back and play it probably at the same interval I'd want to go back and like watch a South Park movie. Maybe every couple of years I might want to revisit it, but I wouldn't go back and play it right again like Frank's doing with Infamous. I definitely wouldn't go back and play it again because the jokes would just, they'd be repetitive by that point. But
right.
Yeah, really good.
Cool. So that's it for you?
Yeah, that's it.
Frank, anything else for you?
Nope.
Well, I think we're pretty much at the end of the show then, and believe it or not a single junk mail.
Oh boy.
Which,
we're that popular.
I guess that's what happens when you only put out a show once every 4 months or whatever it is. But I'll just assume that we've covered everything that people are interested in, and maybe get your junk mail in for next episode. GameJunkPodcast@gmail.com. But it's kind of good.
I'll just say I'm a big fan of the rapid fire. Give us some rapid fire.
Yeah?
I love the rapid fire, especially when it's a funny, good one. if you know the personalities and that drives your rapid fire, oh yeah. Solid stuff.
So let's talk about upcoming releases briefly. I didn't do a lot of research on this, but I know that we've got... So Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate came out for consoles. I don't know if either of you guys checked it out or have any interest, but it's out there. Lego The Hobbit is now out.
Trials Fusion came out today.
Oh yeah, have you seen any reviews for that?
No. But the standalone version is like $40 in stores, and I'm assuming that's going to be a point of contention because the digital one's $20.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. There's not really a ton of stuff out over the next little while. Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Child of Light, and then getting into May. I know Borderlands 2 is coming out for the Vita. I'll probably be picking that up. Mario Golf World Tour. Might give that a poke. Frank, I assume you're looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, one of my most anticipated. That and Mario Kart 8 I can't wait for in May.
Yeah. And then I guess the big one would probably be Watch Dogs, which... Is this still accurate? May 27th? I didn't know it was coming out.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like almost just over a month till that game.
Yeah, so, I mean...
Should we try to review that one?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. Maybe we'll try and aim for that.
We haven't done a joint review in a while.
Yeah, and there's really nothing. And then getting into the summer, there's a new Transformers game.
Pretty light.
Is there anything else big that you're aware of this summer, Frank?
Not off the top of my
Like
head.
almost everything else I've heard of is like September on. Like that's what they're aiming for. The Evil Within comes out in August. That's the only thing I see listed for August here. And there's a bunch of indie stuff, but yeah.
This is perfect. It'll give me time to go through my PS3 backlog and then prep for PS4.
Yeah.
Whenever I buy it.
So that's pretty much it. Thanks once again for tuning in to another long-winded episode of Game Junk. And hopefully we'll be back sometime in the summer. And we'll be talking Watch Dogs. So stay tuned to Facebook.com/GameJunk or Twitter.com/GameJunkPodcast. We do post news stories and interesting links from time to time there. So if you want to keep up with what we're doing, follow us there. And also, if we decide to do another live stream, you will hear about it there as well. And hey, you know what? Tell your friends about Game Junk. Even though we don't record very often, I feel like there might be some people out there that might enjoy the show.
Let's expand the conversation a little.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. You can follow us all individually on Twitter. Twitter.com/DirtyFrank with 3 R's and dirty, My Angry Commute, and Film Junk. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Sean likes his fonts thick and fat.
Thick and juicy.
You're all
Going
about girth rather than length?